to this issue that had started way back then, I want to imagine that the South African Public Protector would be interested also in, the reports that the service delivery is being hampered by an influx of foreign nationals abroad, but then encounter such treatment that affronts their dignity and the services that they receive is of mutual interest. There is beneficial interest in us engaging.
Political parties in South Africa outside the Government of National Unity say it was a missed opportunity not to elect a chairperson from the opposition to head the ad hoc committee looking into alleged threats to national security. The newly established ad hoc committee elected African National Congress MP Soviet Lechanyani as chairperson. It was established by Parliament following allegations by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Ndandla Mkhwanazi. He alleged that some of the most senior officials in the police service are involved in corruption and that Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who has been placed on special leave, is associated with syndicates. The matter of the ANC being elected as chairperson was first raised by Action SA MP Deraline James and supported by Economic Freedom Fighters MP Leanne Matthys.
How do we garner public trust when we have a chairperson that has been elected from the very party where most of these people are embroiled in?
It was an opportunity that was missed by the GNU partners, starting with the ANC, to build confidence in the country, particularly on this horrific issue of crime.
The UN's food agency says people trapped in the Sudanese city of Al Fasher for more than a year are facing starvation, with no sign of an end to the siege by the paramilitary rapid support forces. The BBC's Barbara Plett-Usher reports.
The warning from the World Food Programme comes as local activists have already begun reporting deaths by starvation in Al Fasher. The UN agency said it hadn't been able to deliver food to the city by road for more than a year. It didn't name the party responsible, but the RSF has cut trade routes and blocked supply lines. WFP cited reports that people are eating animal fodder and food waste to try to survive. The agency said it had trucks loaded with food and nutrition assistance ready to go if it got guarantees of safe passage.
Mali state media has reported that Islamic State-affiliated militants released 4 Moroccan truck drivers kidnapped in January, highlighting growing intelligence cooperation between the two countries. The men and the 3 trucks disappeared in January while crossing without an escort from Dori in Burkina Faso to Terra in Niger. Junta-led Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali are battling militant groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State that have been destabilizing West Africa's Sahel region for more than a decade. For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jolani Tulo-Webe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, Banyana rising star Adriel Mebe is positive about her move to the NWCA League. And the Italian organizers are optimistic about the upcoming Winter Olympics. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
So every day on Rise and Shine, after the 6 o'clock news, we give you a concise roundup of stories that have made headlines in and around our continent that you may have missed from the previous day. And this offers us an opportunity as well to throw forward in what we can expect in terms of those developments on news in this new day. Today we start with Darfur, it's the Sudan that is, and hundreds of thousands of people trapped in the Sudanese army's last stronghold in western Darfur are running out of food and facing constant artillery and drone attacks. In Al Fasher, the capital of North Darfur and a key front line between the army and the RSF, those who flee risk cholera and violent attacks as Sudan's civil war enters its 3rd year.
At the Tawila camp in Sudan, people carry with them stories of disease, hunger and violence. It's located about 40 miles west of Al Fasher, the Sudanese army's last stronghold in Darfur after more than 2 years of war. With the army having pushed the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, out of Sudan's capital Khartoum earlier this year, The battle for Al Fasher has intensified. Inam Abdallah Mohammed says they fled another camp in the area, Zamzam, because of the RSF, and were then attacked in a village near Al Fasher.
If they find a person with a mobile phone, they would take it from him. If you have money, they take it. If you have a good donkey or something like that, they'll take it from you. They kill people. They killed people in front of us. They took girls in front of us and raped them.
Meanwhile, the UN's humanitarian official Tom Fletcher has warned that time is running out in Al Fasher, and that's in northern Darfur, as the risk of starvation intensifies. The Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, is urgently calling for humanitarian pause to allow large-scale aid delivery and return of a full UN presence on the ground. Farhan Haq is the deputy spokesperson for the UN Secretary-General.
OCHA colleagues on the ground warn about escalating humanitarian needs driven by insecurity, disease, hunger, flooding, and displacement. In El Fasher, reports indicate that sporadic shelling continues. The situation there remains deeply unstable, with civilians bearing the brunt of recent clashes between armed groups and families being trapped in one of the country's most besieged urban centers. For its part, the World Food Programme pointed out that 1 year since the famine was first confirmed in Sudan's Zamzam camp in North Darfur, families trapped inside the besieged state capital, El Fasher, faced starvation. WFP noted that with trade routes cut off and supply lines blocked, basic food items like sorghum or wheat, which are used to make traditional flatbreads and porridges, cost up to 460% more in El Fasher than in the rest of Sudan.
At least 15 people have been killed, officials say, as the rainy season battered the aging infrastructure of Guinea's capital, Conakry. David Doyle has more.
Across Conakry, roads and bridges have buckled under the peak of rainy season that has overwhelmed the city's aging urban infrastructure. At the weekend, volunteer rescue worker Luar Nicodem and others were helping to clear bridges and search for bodies. He said there are many blocked roads and many missing people. Bodies have been taken to a morgue at a mosque in the capital, where grieving family members gathered outside. Guinea's National Agency for Emergency and Humanitarian Disaster Management said 138 homes had been damaged and 52 families forced into makeshift shelters. The West African country's government has promised to accelerate upgrades to urban drainage systems, clear critical waterways, and relocate communities in landslide-prone areas.
Zambia's Finance and National Planning Minister, Dr. Situmbuko Musokotwane, says that the government's decision to suspend the export tax on copper concentrate is intended to encourage more local mineral processing. Speaking in Lusaka, Dr. Musokotwane stressed that the 3-month suspension was made in consultation with mining companies and not as a permanent removal of the tax, but taken in the country's best interest.
Maintenance of confidence that things are going well. This is why we feel that we should extend the program for another 1 year. And the financial support we are looking at is about $145 million US. Is something that we can make use of as we go into the next year. For a couple of months, the copper exports have been going down. Why? Because the mining companies had concentrate, there was a tax, but they could not smelt, so the copper concentrate was piling. Therefore, copper exports went down.
And that's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Africa Roundup. Always bringing you a concise update on the news that's been to set you up for the day. Coming up, we're going to be focusing on West Africa. Asanda will be speaking to Dr. Matsanga about what's been going on in the region. Stay with us for that.
She builds, she leads, she rises. This August, join Channel Africa in celebrating the women who shape our communities, shift narratives, and carve out a future on their own terms.
These women together ought to be able to turn it right again.
From Cape Town to Kigali, Lagos to Lusaka, African women are rewriting the script. Here's to courage, creativity, and unstoppable progress. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
Right, so let's delve into the area of West Africa on our continent as we get a wrap-up of stories making headlines there. And we speak to political analyst and conflict resolution expert Dr. David Matsanga to get detail on these few stories. Dr. Matsanga, always great having these catch-up sessions with you. How are you on this particular Wednesday?
Good morning, my sister. Good morning, Africa. And good morning, the rest of the world listening to us. Let's keep the continent going.
Let's definitely keep it going. Let's start with several West African countries who have kept going as they are going to be commemorating their Independence Days this August. Yesterday was Burkina Faso's turn. The one with one of your favorite leaders on the continent, Ibrahim Traore. In what ways would it be best for the Burkinabes to take stock of how far their country has come, in your view?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to congratulate the president of Burkina Faso. I have been in Burkina Faso for six times. I've been in, out. I've traveled to Mali. I've traveled to Niger. I've traveled to Ghana and several West African states in the last 2 years. I have seen the type of development that has taken place in Burkina Faso compared to the civilian situation that was there before. So I think one of the things that, as they celebrate all the way from Ivory Coast, Benin, the Wat, Niger, Burkina Faso stands out for me. It has changed, it has made inroads in alleviating the poverty-stricken people into productive units. He's bought ambulances, he's dug the roads, he's building hospitals, he's fighting insurgency. That is very, very important, that he has spent more time fighting even insurgency, which is going down, which the French had actually imposed on us in the Sahel region. Well done, Burkina Faso, and well done the rest of the countries in the Sahel.
Also celebrating this month are Benin, Niger, Ivory Coast, and Gambia. From taking stock to looking into the Africa continental free trade as a forward-thinking issue for these countries, what role should they play?
I think we should think of removing borders. But then as we try to think of removing borders, our colonial masters, neo-colonial masters, the new mercantile capitalists that are looking for conflicts, like the country of France. France is purely a country that goes to create chaos. Look at the chaos it created in Syria. It is also looking for us. Look at it carefully. They are looking to destabilize these countries. Again, internally among the African countries, West African states, ECOWAS, we don't have a free movement. We have only free movement on visa, but customs and other things prohibit goods intertrade within the countries. Another factor that is destabilizing West Africa is the question of constitutional shrinkage of constitutions. We make good constitutions, shrink them. Look at what is happening in Ivory Coast. This gentleman has shrunk the whole constitution, knocking his friends out. People are on the streets. And Ivory Coast is just a few meters away from a war. Anytime it can come back, because I've been there, I've seen. I and Mbeki and Tisano, we saw this. We tried to plead with Babgo and Quattara. The French override us, and you see where we ended. So let's change those things in order for us to move forward with trade.
As you touch on Ivory Coast, let's go there and delve deeper into the protests that led to violence and arrests over the weekend. They have worsened political tensions there in Côte d'Ivoire. Let's recap what the protests were against in the first place.
First, the protests, you knock out your fellow candidates. Why do you knock them out? Mr. Quattara himself is not from Ivory Coast. You Africans, the problem that Africa faces is that none of the leaders speak the truth. Why don't you speak the truth? Quattara is from Burkina Faso. He is not from Ivory Coast. Now he goes out to put a law in the constitution to knock his friends out. Yes, speak my mind. Quattara does not feed me, and if he doesn't want me to come to Abidjan, is it the only heaven? I live in a place where he can only get a visa to come there. So let me tell you frankly, tell the people the truth. The Burkina Faso is part and parcel of the region. Mr. Quattara also does not come. That's why the war between Babugo and Quattara took place, and thousands and millions of people were displaced, killed. He's not from Burkina Faso. Now he goes to knock his friends out of the race. He remains alone. Then declares. What do you expect people to do? One of the things that I love about my country, Uganda, you can call them names, but President Museveni doesn't knock you out of your election. Museveni brings you on and defeats you. Yes, I note that I am in support of what goes on there, but he has never knocked people out of an election. Just like that, you knock out people out of election and you expect people to keep quiet when your country is just at the fringe of a war. And let's speak the truth. Ndoro, you, Peter Ndoro, and others, we have been there, we have seen these wars, and we don't need more wars. Let's tell the truth. Burkina Faso, Quattara is a mess for West Africa and for Africa, a disgrace for Africa.
So how credible then will these elections be viewed as being, on that point that you make, with the barring of several opposition party leaders from them?
Prepare for another war. I want to summarize for you. Prepare for a war. Remember, Quattara has tried to overthrow Mr. Traore. So what can stop Traore also, or another state coming in to say, let's do this? I'm telling you the truth. I'm always around there. I'm a student of political science and international relations. To the last iota on planet Earth, you can't tell me that there will not be a war. This is coming. And let's prepare for it. Let African Union come in, political and diplomatic commission come in and stop this type of nonsense that is taking place in Africa. And unfortunately, we have a man sleeping on the job in Addis Ababa. This man from West Africa again sleeps on the job. I don't know what they do. I don't know what the political and the commission, political affairs, peace and the security commission does in Africa. Do you know anything? Do you see anybody in the streets of Johannesburg? Do you see anybody in the streets of Khartoum? Do you see anybody in the streets of DRC, Congo, Goma? No, they are earning the salaries in Addis Ababa.
Let's move to Nigeria now, Dr. Matsanga, where armed men have killed 11 people and they've kidnapped 70 in northwest Nigeria, reportedly. They are reported to have been on motorbikes, and the group of men is known as bandits. What else do we know about this incident?
Asanda, few weeks ago I told you that Nigeria is a country without a country, a state without a state. What does that mean in summary? Collapsed governance. There is no state called Nigeria. Call it a state of terrorists, a state of bandits, a state of kidnappers, a state of women grabbers. They have stolen all our women. Call it in Africa. They have taken all the women, all the girls have disappeared by Boko Haram terrorists. Now there are more and more groups coming up, not only in the southeast. These groups are now in the northwest. These groups are now in the northeast. These groups have come while Nigeria has got one of the biggest armies on the African continent, a useless army. Can I repeat that word again? A useless army. Do you know what they do? They come to kill civilians in Biafra, in the southeast. They kill civilians instead of looking for these bandits. The whole Nigerian army spends money, equipment to kill its own civilians. I don't know why President Tinubu does not wake up. At least for me in my country again, I want to tell you, You can't come and kill civilians and the President Museveni will watch you. He will fight you. And I love that type of morale of fighting, defending the people. You can accuse Uganda of anything, but not insecurity inside. Nowhere. But Nigeria, my dear sister, is a failed state. It is collapsed. Let's rearrange it.
So if the army is useless, how have the police responded? They also law enforcement. And are there any captives for whom ransom has been demanded so far?
Asanda, have you ever gone to Nigeria?
I actually haven't. I was supposed to go last year and I missed that opportunity.
Try to take a trip to Nigeria. You talking about which police? The police is money. If you have money, you do anything in Nigeria. It's a corrupt state. Let's talk a population of 250 million people, which should lead Africa into pride. It leads Africa into belittlement. We are belittled. Everywhere you go, when you hear the Nigeria, somebody starts running under the door, say, look, let's be honest. But there are people there who don't want to associate themselves from this state called Nigeria, which is already collapsed. People are saying, no, rearrange us. We are not those. You have people coming, killing people. Herdsmen, frantic herdsmen. Nigeria has got only 20,000 cattle, 20 million cattle. India has 300 million cattle. But in India don't go around killing and taking people because of grazing. In Nigeria, Fulani herdsmen have come all the way armed with huge arms, catch of arms, coming down, slaughtering Christians, slaughtering farmers from every religious sect. Surely, you call that a state?
Let's move to Ghana now, Dr. Matsanga, for the sake of time. But this is not too far off from Nigeria because it does link to the country as well. Protests there in Ghana have taken place, and it's against Nigerian kidnappings and ritual killings. Another main point of grievance for the Ghanaian protesters is the alleged takeover of markets in that country by Nigerian traders. How big of a problem is this in Ghana?
Let me first of all clarify this. The most of the people who have come, besides all this, Nigerian, especially those from Biafra, formerly in 1967 declared, and it's now declared itself as a United States of Biafra. They said these from Biafra are very honest. They are good traders. They have run away from the persecution inside Nigerian state. That the Ghanaian government, I would advise my friend Mahama. Mahama is a listening president, a great man that I always interact with. I would tell him to be careful about the type of refugees. Some of the refugees who have crossed over to Ghana are very hardworking people. And these are Biafrans who are very hardworking, very knowledgeable. They are not thieves or fraudsters. They come to do a good service. Ghana has an open policy society of policing people. It is the same thing in South Africa. We have Nigerians. But the problem that you have not differentiated which type of Nigeria has arrived in South Africa. They are genuine Nigeria, and they are genuine people from that state, especially Biafrans who do good business.
Yeah. So these concerns then should be raised, granted, and regional action is needed where there's been inaction. But how should these protests in Ghana and maybe in other parts of the continent ensure that they do not come across as xenophobic?
It is so. Because we again go back to this African Union. The political department of African Union headed by another Nigerian from Yoruba land called Bankole, Ambassador Bankole, who has permanently sat on this seat like cement and concrete. He is there only earning dollars and fighting over women in the headquarters. You know, instead of coming out to explain this question of xenophobia so that people don't turn on other people and kill each other. Lucy, look at East Africa. Look at my country again. Uganda hosts a lot. Somali, the richest person in my country is from Somalia. We are proud. We are the only people in Africa that give Somali entry at the airport in Entebbe. We are proud again, Ugandans. Look, they have done very well. They do good business. Such things, models should be taken across Africa so that people are sensitized on how they can be Africans, not to live. Another point before we close. Look at our headquarters, Addis Ababa. Before you go to we don't have that Africanism. It is dead. Why should you apply for a visa to go and see your headquarters in Addis Ababa? Then you are preaching to people African unity. Zero. Speak the truth. Why should an African apply to go to Ethiopia, where there is a headquarters, when America gives everybody visa to go to United Nations? Why do you keep Ethiopia as if it is in where? I have written a letter to my friend, Dr. Abiy Ahmed Ali. Please give Ethiopia visa free, because it's the headquarters of African Union, to show the Europeans that we are more organized. We are well organized than even them. So, but when you show some of these things of this nature, like what is happening, and there's xenophobia, you are not telling people you are seated in African Union. What African Union is this?
Thank you, Doctor. We're going to leave it there for today. We really appreciate your time. It's always great having these catch-up sessions with you. Your analysis is always much needed. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Asanda. Let's keep talking. The more we talk, the less the conflicts will be. If we keep quiet, we shall be brewing violence.
Thank you. Dr. David Matsanga is analyst and conflict resolution expert, taking a look with us on some of the stories making headlines in West Africa. Quite a busy news day for West Africa. There's also a proposal in Liberia that 4 justices of the Supreme Court be suspended, and Guinea-Bissau getting ready for their election, even though there is a political uncertainty in that country. That remains to be seen in terms of how those elections will be played out. It's 6:30 now. Let's say good morning to Jolani Tulo Ngwepe, who's got our news headlines.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. Making headlines, Zimbabwe says it will not cover the medical bills for its people in South Africa, but stressed that basic human rights must be respected. Cameroon's Constitutional Council has dismissed an appeal by the opposition leader, Maurice Kamto, and confirmed he will not be allowed to stand as a presidential candidate in elections in October. And finally, rescue efforts are underway in the Indian state of Uttarakhand after flash flooding swept through a village. I will have details on these and other stories at 7 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
It's time to find out what's been happening in the world of sport. And at the desk today is Fikile Lingwati. Good morning, my brother.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Good morning, Peter. We begin with the cricket news this hour. England will discover the extent of Chris Woakes' shoulder injury later this week after his heroics in the classic 5th test against India. Woakes sustained a suspected dislocation on the opening day at the Oval, yet emerged to bat with his left arm in a sling on the final day. A 36-year-old supported Gus Atkinson as England looked for the 17 runs they needed to win. Not facing a ball but running between the wickets on 4 occasions. England were ultimately beaten by 6 runs in one of the most dramatic finishes of all time. All-rounder Woakes will have scans and further assessment today. Banyana rising star Adrielle Mib feels positive regarding the future in football as she begins a new journey in the United States of America. Maybe was recently unveiled as the new signing at the University of Arizona, where she will compete in the NCAA League. Maybe says she is grateful that she can continue to pursue her studies while growing her football profile abroad.
I'm happy. It is something I've always dreamed of, and I am really enjoying my new stay at my new club. They're really welcoming, and it's just a very enjoyable and a new experience for me. And about this journey, yes, I am going to continue my studies this side, and I feel grateful because they're helping me achieve my goals.
The 18-year-old gained valuable international experience after featuring in the Women's COSAFA Cup Under-17 in 2023 and the COSAFA Under-20 in 2024, which saw her earn her first Women's Africa Cup of Nations call-up this year.
Being selected for WAFCON was really a great experience because I get to see the seniors play, know where to improve on, how to improve the level and quality of football from the seniors, learning a lot and improving my game at the same time, gaining experience as well. So being selected for AFCON was really a big thing.
Let's end with Olympic news. 6 months before the start of the Winter Olympics, Italian organizers say after years of ups and downs, they are on schedule. The Olympic opening ceremony is on the 6th of February, though curling kicks off the action 2 days earlier. The Paralympics open a month later on the 6th of March, though curling again breaks the ice 2 days before. Simico, the public company responsible for delivering the Olympic facilities last week, promised that all the planned sports construction project will be completed before the start of the Olympics. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Je, una jambo lolote akilini mwako? Je, una shauku kuhusu masuala muhimu? Na je, una maoni ambayo unataka yasikike? Kweli, hili jukwaa ni la kwako. Piga simu au tuandikie kwenda WhatsApp namba alama ya kujumulisha 2760552594 na tutakupigia simu.
Mtangazaji wa habari zetu za Afrika Kusini mjini Johannesburg.
Hivyo unaweza kuwa mshirika kwenye matangazo yetu. Sio mazungumzo tu, ni fursa yako ya kuchangia maoni yako na kushirikiana na jumuiya ya wasikilizaji wanaotamani mtazamo wako. Tufuate kwenye mitandao ya kijamii. Tembelea tovuti yetu www.channelafrica.co.za na uwe tayari kushiriki na kuchangia maoni yako kwenye Channel Africa. Channel Africa, mtazamo wa Kiafrika.
Right, let's check in with the world of business. Here's Tabisole Huku with our economics update.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Asanda, and good morning. South Africa's biggest grocery retailer, Shoprite Holdings, says it is selling its operations in Ghana and Malawi. The company says this is in a bid to consolidate its activities across Africa to focus more on its home market. The planned sales follow exits from Nigeria, Kenya, Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda and Madagascar. Shoprite has also restricted capital allocations to its supermarkets outside South Africa. As D-Day approaches, for the imposition of a 30% hike on goods imported from South Africa to the US, the South African government says that the increase to US tariff could cause tens of thousands of job losses, especially in the agriculture and car manufacturing industries. South Africa is one of many countries that have faced the US tariff hikes as the Trump administration pushes to reshape global trade in its favor. Professor Lawrence Edwards, a research associate from the University of Cape Town's School of Economics, says there are a number of trade and political issues that the US is attempting to resolve through the introduction of these tariffs, but says using tariffs to address these concerns is a misplaced approach.
Of course, there are big political issues, and I think these bigger political issues are harder to put your thumb on and try and isolate precisely what the concern is. But I think our strong association and links in the BRICS group is of concern to the United States.
Meanwhile, South Africa's Gauteng province premier, Anyaza Lesufi, has slammed the US, saying it is punishing South Africa for standing with Palestine by imposing the 30% tariffs on imports. Speaking during the Gauteng Legislature House sitting, the Premier said they refuse to be bullied by one country which seeks to dictate where South Africa should buy or trade. Lesufi was answering questions on the recently signed agreement between the Hunan province in China and Gauteng to increase trade and investment between the two provinces.
The Chinese are coming here to assist us, and the Chinese are making their market available to us so that our people can prosper and our businesses can grow.
South Africa's Petroleum and Mineral Resources Minister, Gwede Mantashe, has expressed concern over the decline of the country's natural diamond industry. Mantashe met with industry stakeholders to discuss a strategic response to lab-produced diamonds. He says South Africa has fallen from being one of the world's top 5 diamond producers to 6th spot. Mantashe is proposing a universal accord that would see companies contribute 1% of their annual turnover to a major marketing campaign for natural diamonds.
The natural diamonds are under siege in many ways. The market is depressed, the price of diamond is down, and lab-grown diamonds are eating in our lunch.
Japan has signed a deal to supply advanced stealth frigates to Australia in its most significant foreign sales since it lifted an arms export ban in 2014. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries will deliver 3 upgraded Mogami-class frigates from 2029, with 8 more to be built in Australia. Its Defence Minister, Richard Marles, welcomes the decision.
I want to emphasise that this decision is entirely based on the capability of the respective ships. This is a decision that is made about how we can get the best platform, the best capability for the Royal Australian Navy.
$1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,525 naira. Botswana 13.39, Kenya 128 shilling 4, and Zambia 22 kwacha 90. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5.50. Russia 79 rubles 93, India 87 rupees 81, China 71.18, and in South Africa the dollar will cost you 17 rand 93 cents. $1 is trading at 75 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Gold is trading at $3,378 and platinum $1,315 per ounce. Brand crude oil is at $68 to a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Thabiso Hoku.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine. Weekdays 6 till 9 Central African Time on Channel Africa. G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa.
It's time now for our G20 fact of the day. Did you know that South Africa will host approximately 130 working group meetings and 23 ministerial level meetings throughout the year? And this is ahead of the country hosting the 2-day G20 Leaders Summit in Johannesburg from November the 22nd, marking the first time that the summit is held in Africa. And this all happened under the theme Solidarity, Equality, Sustainability. And that is our G20 fact for the day.
Você é fluente em português? É apaixonado por rádio e quer trabalhar na África do Sul? Você tem documentos que o qualificam para trabalhar na África do Sul? Nesse caso, podemos ter uma oportunidade para você trabalhar no Canal África. Envie seu currículo e demonstração para Canal África at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Lembre-se, se você não receber alguma resposta nossa em 14 dias, isso significa que você não foi selecionado. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
The South African Broadcasting Corporation, SABC Sport, brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about South Africa's national rugby team, the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. It started on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2, and you can tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroes that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere, no subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African perspective. Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
The United States has officially imposed a 30% import tariff on South African goods, and this is a move that could cost the country thousands of jobs and threaten key export sectors. Now, the tariffs announced by the US President Donald Trump came into effect on the 1st of August and effectively erased the benefits of the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. Future Forex Chief Executive Officer Harry Scherzer says that the impact is already being felt. Here's Channel Africa's Lebahang Mabange with the story.
The tariffs are part of Donald Trump's reciprocal trade strategy targeting 190 countries. For South Africa, the agricultural and automotive sectors stand to lose the most, with citrus, wine and vehicle exports among those in the firing line. Harry Scherzer is the CEO of Future Forex.
So these tariffs effectively make the cost of goods more expensive to the American market. So when an American wants to buy, let's say, fruit from a South African farm, when that fruit is exported to America, there's going to be a 30% tariff that's added to the price, which means the price to clients in America will be 30% more. And suddenly the supermarkets and others will be less keen to work with South Africa because the demand is going to go down. No one wants to pay an additional 30% for a fruit.
Beyond trade volumes, the currency market is also under pressure. Scherzer warns that exchange rate volatility could hit South African businesses hard, especially those reliant on cross-border trade.
As a South African business, if you are interacting internationally, in other words, if you're an importer who's buying from abroad, if you're an exporter who's selling abroad, if you are just moving money for operations abroad, you're going to be exposed to Forex risks. And let's use importers as an example here. Let's say you import goods from America, but you sell them in South Africa in rands. If your goods are being bought in America, you're probably being priced in dollars. Or as the rand, let's say, weakens against the dollar, so in other words, you have to pay more rands for every dollar, your costs effectively increase in rand terms, and you can't necessarily increase your sales or your profits or your revenue as quickly. And so what that means is you have this risk in your business.
Regional integration under the African Continental Free Trade Area could provide some relief, but Scherzer says it's not yet mature enough to serve as a full safety net.
Given our over-reliance on America, we can see what happens when the American government doesn't take favor to the South African government and how damaging that is for South Africa. And for that reason, it's really, really important that we strengthen our relationship with multiple countries, not just one, because if we, for example, do the same strategy but with China, then we just need China to turn around and say, actually, we don't like what you're doing, we're going to impose tariffs too, and we're in the same position again. So the real trick here is to form multiple bonds with multiple countries across the world to ensure that we can do more more business with all of them.
His message to government is clear: act fast before the damage becomes irreversible.
My view, which is a relatively controversial one, is that the South African government at this point can't afford to have a bad relationship with America. We're way too dependent on them, and it's way too bad for our economy, and people are going to lose their jobs en masse. Factories are going to shut down within South Africa. It's just not a good solution at present. We're too dependent on America, and for that reason, I would really encourage, very, very strongly encourage, our government to sit down with President Trump, sit down with the Trump regime, and sort something out to remove these tariffs ASAP.
With the tariffs now in force, the race is on to repair relations, protect jobs, and find new markets before the ripple effects hit the broader economy. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabange in Johannesburg, South Africa.
South Africa's government is stepping up to support the exporters after the United States has imposed that steep 30% tariff on key South African goods that we've just heard in that report. Now, this is a move that sparked concern across sectors, including wine, citrus and manufacturing. The Department of Trade, Industry and Competition has now launched an export support desk to help affected industries navigate this crisis. The tariff hike announced by US President Donald Trump could put thousands of local jobs at risk and has strained ties between Pretoria and Washington. Despite high-level talks between Pretoria and Washington, it seems these concessions none of these concessions have taken effect, prompting South Africa to look inward and outward for solutions. South African exporters, in fact, for this, we're now joined by Camille Ali, who's the spokesperson for the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, Camille. Welcome to the program.
Well, thanks very much to you, Peter, and good morning to your viewers.
Perhaps you can start by explaining what the Export Support Desk is and actually how it works. What kind of support are you offering to exposed exporters?
Well, Peter, we've got within the DTIC a branch called the Export Branch. And ordinarily what this branch does is to facilitate conversations between South African exporters and markets across the world. So what the support desk has done is located itself within the export branch at the DTIC with the specific objective to intervene, so to speak, and act as a direct point of contact for companies who are specifically affected by the US tariff hike. So primarily the support desk is going to be used to provide updates on any developments that occur, to provide advisory services that are tailored to exporters, to offer support on finding alternative destinations for products from South Africa, in addition to a number of other things, including guidance on certain market entry processes should this diversification option be something that exporters are looking to take advantage of. And then also just linkages, between South Africa's diplomatic networks across the world, embassies, high commissions, and the like.
One gets a sense that this work should have started 90 days ago. Were you up and running already? Because we knew it was coming, didn't we?
Well, it was quite difficult, Peter, to be honest with you, to plan for an eventuality in the uncertainty of the environment that we're dealing with. One could have put in quite a number of measures for a number of different scenarios which could have played out. Ultimately, planning for what exactly would have happened was quite difficult. So work had started quite a while back in order to prepare. The support desk, for example, is live. It went live on the 1st of August and has been operational ever since.
Have businesses already started engaging with the support desk? What kind of questions have been coming through to you?
Yes, we have been getting a number of interactions with the support desk. Market diversification has been one of the questions, or one of a number of questions which have come through. We've also been dealing with just around, what it is that's accessible to exporters at this particular point in time. And yeah, so we've had significant interaction from our industries, particularly the citrus industry, through that support desk. So it has been quite functional and quite useful in intervening.
Tell me about trade relations now between the US and it seems as if there's now a significant shift in the economic partnership with South Africa and the US, given what's playing out.
Yes, and I think, Peter, it's not necessarily a uniquely South African thing. The United States is resetting, if you will, its trade agenda with countries all over the world. South Africa just being one among them. But it has created for us a particular, obstacle in our diplomatic and economic relationship with the US, which we've enjoyed over the past decades under, WTO conventions, and specifically the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act as well. So yeah, there is a bit of a strain at the moment, but the government is committed to ensuring that the relationship continues on a mutually beneficial basis and a basis that protects South Africa's national interest as well.
I suppose this is a great opportunity, and we saw this with the Ukraine-Russia war, where certain products and energy became an issue, and countries had to diversify and look for other partners, routes. Maybe this is a wake-up call for us as a continent to start to think more globally and not stick with traditional partners.
Absolutely. Peter, for South Africa in particular, you would have heard the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition in his budget vote processes speaking about a butterfly strategy for our exports, which strategy anchors the African continent and the African Continental Free Trade Agreement within the priority for South Africa. We know that the continent offers us our best bet at economic growth and potential, but also creates an opportunity for regional integration and development across the continent and industrialization, which is what is actually of importance to us as a country over the medium term. The wings of the butterfly then spreading to the east and the west, offering that support, but really just focusing on the continent as a critical lever for our industrial development and growth.
I suppose the African Continental Free Trade Agreement really becomes a key now, and we need to get serious about this.
Absolutely, and our colleagues in the trade branch at the DTIC are working extremely hard to finalize, various protocols, the digital trade protocol, services protocol, to ensure that the AFCFTA really takes off now. We've seen just under R1 billion of trade happening within the AFCFTA over the past, or since its inception in January 2024. So the growth potential is a business case on its own. And it's clear that exporters and the South African market is ready to take advantage of the AFCFTA. And we're doing everything we can to enable that.
How are you going to ensure that this support reaches small and medium-sized enterprises and not just the major exporters?
Well, we've got a number of interventions. We want to build resilience and focus on MSMEs who are affected by this through operations like the Localization Support Fund, in collaboration with the Industrial Development Corporation, which is an entity of the DTIC, as well as work on our Export and Competitiveness Support Program, which includes plant and equipment facility, capital facility, working capital facility, to address the short to medium term needs across these industries, and as you say, with a particular focus on SMMEs.
All right, and perhaps finally, are we going to retaliate?
Absolutely not, Peter. Retaliation is not something that we view as objectively beneficial to either party at this point in time. Our commitment remains in upholding the rules of the WTO, of the principles of multilateralism and multilateral trade. So retaliation for us is, while enabled, it's not necessarily something that we view as favorable at this point in time. South Africa is a relatively small and open economy and vulnerable to external shocks. So we don't think that it's in the best interest of our economy to do something like that.
Camille, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much indeed, and we wish you the very best of luck with this desk, and let's hope that we can weather this storm and find new pathways to protect ourselves in the future. Thanks so much indeed for your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Peter. All
right, that's Camille Ali, who's a spokesperson for the South African Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, talking to us about this innovative export support desk that's been set up to help exporters that are being affected by this tariff that's been imposed by the United States, 30% on goods, certain goods, not all of them, especially the ones that the United States needs.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go.
7 o'clock Central African time. A very good morning to you. This is the second hour of Rise and Shine right here on Channel Africa Radio, where we bring you the African perspective. And we're broadcasting from our studios in Johannesburg, South Africa on www.channelafrica.co.za. And you can also catch us on your mobile apps. Just go and look for SABC Plus and look for Channel Africa, and then you can take us wherever you go. My name is Peter Ndoro.
My name is Asanda. Beda. Very good morning to you, and thank you for staying with us. So in this hour, we look at Rwanda, which has struck a new deal with the United States to take in up to 250 migrants deported from that American soil. Also, today marks exactly 80 years since the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, a moment that changed the course of history, of course, and left deep humanitarian scars that are still felt to this day. Those stories and more coming up. Let's get our news first. Here's Jalani Tulo Ngwepe, and then sports news headlines after her with Fikile Lingwati.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. Zimbabwe says it will not cover the bills for its people in South Africa, but stressed that basic human rights must be respected. Chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, J.C. Majome, has pointed out different types of Zimbabweans in South Africa, arguing that emergency care should not be withheld based on their country of origin. This follows South Africa's Public Protector's Office confirmation that it has no record of complaints from Zimbabwe's Human Rights Commission regarding Zimbabweans being denied health care in the country. Majome explains.
There was a conversation pertaining to this issue that had started way back then. I want to imagine that the South African Public Protector would be interested also in the reports that the service delivery is being hampered by an influx of foreign nationals. And we agreed, and my concern as the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission is that as well, it is also of concern that if Zimbabwean nationals are also seek services abroad but then encounter such treatment that affronts their dignity.
Cameroon's Constitutional Council has dismissed an appeal by the opposition leader Maurice Kamto and confirmed he will not be allowed to stand as a presidential candidate in elections in October. Kamto, who came second in the 2018 election, was seen as a potential strong challenger to the 92-year-old incumbent President Paul Biya. The BBC's Paul Njie has the story.
Maurice Kamto stormed out of the Constitutional Council premises in disappointment without saying a word. His lawyers said the decision to exclude him from the presidential election was more political than legal. The electoral body ruled out Kamto's candidacy because the party which endorsed him presented another candidate from a rival faction. As fears of possible tensions grow, police and gendarmes armed with riot gear have been stationed in key parts of the city to prevent any form of protests.
The appointment of an African National Congress MP to head an ad hoc committee looking into alleged threats to national security in South Africa has sparked opposition criticism. ANC MP Molapi Soviet Lekhanyane chairs the committee probing claims by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner that some senior police officials, including Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, have ties with criminal syndicates. Mchunu has been placed on special leave. Opposition party Action SA MP Deraline James and Economic Freedom Fighters MP Leanne Mateus questioned the decision.
How do we garner public trust when we have a chairperson that has been elected from the very party where most of these people are embroiled in?
It was an opportunity that was missed by the GNU partners, starting with the ANC, to build confidence in the country, particularly on this horrific issue of crime.
Mali's state media has reported that Islamic State-affiliated militants released 4 Moroccan truck drivers kidnapped in January, highlighting growing intelligence cooperation between the two countries. The men and their 3 trucks disappeared in January while crossing without an escort from Ndoro in Burkina Faso to Terra in Niger. Junta-led Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali are battling militant groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State that have been destabilizing West Africa's Sahel region for more than a decade. And finally, rescue efforts are underway in the Indian state of Uttarakhand after flash flooding swept through a village. Reports say at least 4 people have died and dozens are missing. The BBC's Yogita Lamaya has the story.
The floods have occurred in the remote Dharali village, located in the Himalayan mountains. A video posted on social media shows a wave of water gushing downhill and engulfing buildings in the village. Dozens of people can be seen trying to run to safety. The village is a stop on a popular Hindu pilgrimage route and has many hotels, guest houses and restaurants. Given the terrain, it is a difficult place to access. Authorities say some rescue teams have reached the site and more are on the way.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Cholani Tulongwebe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, the Wallabies will adopt the Springbok model on overseas player selection. And Senegal clip stubborn Nigeria to launch CHAN title defense on a high. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Start your day informed, inspired, and entertained. Asanda and Peter bring you Rise and Shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time.
To South Africa now, a special parliamentary committee has been set up to investigate serious allegations that some police officers may be working with criminal syndicates. Now, these claims were made by a top police official in one of the provinces in South Africa, KwaZulu-Natal, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. The newly formed committee held its first meeting this weekend and elected Soviet Lekhanyane as its chairperson. Lekhanyane says that the committee's work is vital to restoring public trust in the country's justice system. Dimakatso Leshuro reports.
The Provincial Police Commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, opened a can of worms in July when, in a televised media briefing, made damning allegations that shook the country against the Minister of Police and senior police officials. Mkhwanazi linked the Police Minister, Senzo Mchunu, who's now been suspended, to criminal syndicates and fingered the second-in-command in the police service, the Deputy National Head of Police, Shadrack Sibiya, of interference and withholding dockets, some of which had instructions to arrest criminals. Mkhwanazi also alleged that there were police at municipal levels and some members of parliament also involved in corruption and had connection with criminals.
And I can confirm before the South Africans today that the investigation which these members were involved with in Gauteng has unmasked the syndicate. And this syndicate involves, amongst others, politicians who are currently serving in parliament. The law enforcement officers include the members of the South African Police Service, the Metro Police, and correctional services. They include prosecutors in Gauteng province, the judiciary, And all these are controlled by the drug cartel as well as business people in that province of Gauteng. This act, of course, undermines the criminal justice system in this country.
President Cyril Ramaphosa then established a commission of inquiry to look into these allegations, while Parliament initiated its own process, forming a special committee to investigate the same allegations and report to the National Assembly by October. ANC Member of Parliament Soviet Lekhanyane was elected to lead this ad hoc committee. Lekhanyane pointed out that public trust in Parliament has waned, and it was this committee's duty to help restore it through its investigation into these allegations.
We have a duty here to raise the flag of the Parliament of the Republic and reignite the confidence of the people of South Africa in Parliament as an institution that can represent them to the best of its abilities.
But MPs raised concern about the chair of the committee being from the ANC, largely viewed as corrupt, and to which the police minister belongs.
But how do we garner public trust here this morning when we have a chairperson that has been elected from the very party where most of these people are embroiled in? How does that make the public feel to know that today we have a member from the same family where all of these people come from? And I'm referring to the previous commissions, establishments, as actually say we have said from the onset that South Africans are tired of committees, South Africans are tired of commissions. And here we start off here today, and we have an ANC chairperson as the chairperson of this committee.
I would think the Action SA is raising a genuine concern, because we want to run a credible process here, which is free from party politics. And there's no need to bully each other here with point of orders when parties are rightfully raising concerns, and they are cautioning the community to not fall into a trap of driving party politics. It's her right to do so. So we must avoid this thing of bullying each other with point of orders when it's unnecessary to do so.
Honorable Sokanyile, allow the member to speak and finish.
There's a difference between not being happy with the ANC occupying the position of a chairperson with a person occupying the position of a chairperson. So an impression must never be created that we have a problem with you. We have a problem with the ANC occupying that position.
It is this committee that has now forged a way forward, and first on the list is to agree on the terms of reference that will guide the process. For Channel Africa News, I'm Dimakato Leshoro in Johannesburg.
Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
10 minutes past 7 Central African time. If you've just joined us, well, good morning. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa. Thank you so much. Let's go to Rwanda now, where the country has struck a new deal with the United States. This is to take in up to 250 migrants deported from American soil. The move is part of a growing trend of third country migration partnerships. But what does it mean for Rwanda, for Africa, and for global migration governance? To help us make sense of it and attempt to answer these questions, we're joined by Professor Lauren Landau from the University of the Witwatersrand, that's based here in Johannesburg, South Africa, a leading voice on migration policy and founding director of the African Center for Migration and Society. Professor Landau, thank you for joining us. How are you on this Wednesday?
Good morning. Everything is good for me. Thank you.
Thank you for making time. Let's start with your overall impression. What do you make of this deal between Rwanda and the United States?
I think we could see this as part of a broader effort by the United States and, of course, European countries to export people they don't want to the African continent and elsewhere in the world. We've seen it with South Sudan. We've seen it with Eswatini next door. Now we're seeing it with Rwanda. This follows a pattern, of course, of these countries dumping things they don't like, whether it's waste or other kind of materials on Africa, products, and now dumping people. And so from a human rights perspective, of course, this is a terrible thing. What I think we also see at play here is a kind of global politics in which Rwanda, particularly very cleverly, is ingratiating itself precisely with the people who have criticized its role in Africa before, winning support, winning favor, winning moral authority with Europe, with the United States.
Why do you think Rwanda is positioning itself this way in global migration politics? They have made similar agreements before, as you say, with the UK and even Israel.
Yes, and also Denmark. The UK agreement has now fallen away, has been criticized from a human rights perspective. But I think if you look at what Paul Kagame has done over the last 30 years, really, since the genocide, he's rebuilt Rwanda. Absolutely, it's a prosperous country by African standards. But he's also been accused of meddling in the war in Congo, of human rights abuses at home. And even from his East African colleagues, there's been skepticism about his more autocratic approach. But many of those critiques have come from countries that are now finding him useful. And so those critiques now go away. The opportunity for him is possibly to continue to export or extract minerals from the Congo, to continue his more authoritarian modes of government without the kind of critiques or trade sanctions that he might have gotten from the European Union or from the United States before.
As you say, from a human rights perspective, this is not a great move, and there are concerns that have been raised on that. So what are the key human rights issues that come to mind to you about this deal?
Well, I think if we look at the quality of prisons in Rwanda for their own citizens, for Rwandese who are there, there have been accusations about human rights abuses, about inability to access legal representation, about general living conditions. There's no reason to think that people coming from outside will get anything better. Even worse, they will be far away from not only their own families, colleagues, but any kind of human rights organizations. Rwanda doesn't allow a kind of free and active civil society like you might see in South Africa or elsewhere. So these people will basically be put in isolation, not literally on an island, not literally on an Alcatraz, but effectively away from the kind of protections and any sort of observation that is necessary to take care of and protect the rights of prisoners, but also people who would have been deported.
Generally, what does this deal say about Africa's emerging role in global migration management? Is there a shift that we're seeing?
Yeah, I think what we've seen is that African leaders, I won't say Africans generally or Africa generally, have recognized that migration management is a resource. So much like mineral exports or security, in which the leaders have traded the welfare of their own citizens for personal gain, for political power, we're now seeing migration being used in that way as a tool in which African leaders can reinforce their power, protect themselves from external critique, and reinforce their kind of control of the citizenry at home.
Do you think this opens the door for other African countries to follow suit and open their borders to take on similar roles, or is Rwanda a special case? We've mentioned South Sudan and Eswatini as examples.
Right. I mean, I know that what we saw a few weeks ago was a summit of smaller West African countries in the White House meeting with the United States. The European Union is trying to negotiate similar deals. They already have these deals with Libya or some version of the Libyan government. They've done similar deals with Tunisia. So it's not that this opens the door. This maybe pushes that door open even wider.
What are some of the clear benefits for Rwanda in this type of a deal?
Well, I think the first benefit is obviously they are being paid, whether it's going straight to the government or will go to private security, whoever is running these facilities, they're getting paid. They'll be paid in cash. They're going to get better trading options with the United States, perhaps with the European Union, out of these deals. But I think the bigger benefit is really that it immunizes, at least in part, Paul Kagame and his government from external critique, from sanctions for what they might be doing in Congo or elsewhere, from sanctions or pressure for what they're doing on the human rights record at home.
Eswatini, with that example, there were concerns that the immigrants that were brought into the country from the US were criminals. What kind of due diligence should be put in place then to make sure that those fears are allayed and criminals are not being added on to an already struggling system like Rwanda?
Right. It's very difficult to know exactly how these people will be selected from the United States. Even 250, while that is an important number, is a very small number of the people that the United States hopes to deport and is already deporting. So it's unclear to me how these people will be selected, who these 5 people sent to Eswatini, for example, who they were, what crimes they committed. It is up to, of course, the Rwandan government to decide whether they accept these individuals or not. We don't know all of the terms of those deals, but clearly the main issue here should be that whoever African countries take, we should be ensuring that their rights are protected, that the people who are around them are made secure, and that there is due process that enables these people, if they have been convicted of a crime, to serve their sentences and then go home or be free. And right now, it seems that these people might be being sent into a kind of interminable detention in a country where they have no support. And that, I think, is the big human rights concern.
Should the African Union step in terms of these deals, and what role could they be playing in other regional bodies when these kinds of agreements are made?
Right. The African Union should have stepped in a long time ago. Regional bodies, the East African Community, and in the Rwanda's case, SADC, in the case of Eswatini, should be speaking out against these, not just from a moral ground, but also from issues of political accountability and human rights. Unfortunately, the EU and the United States have undermined these kind of multilateral organizations by making bilateral deals with Rwanda, with Libya, with any other number of countries. And the EU, or rather the AU and others, have been left a little bit powerless. So while they continue to push for free movement across Africa, an African passport, greater kinds of integration, external powers have made these kind of deals which are strengthening borders and really kind of undermining the kind of moral principles on which African migration management should be built.
Professor Landau, we appreciate your time and your enlightenment on this topic. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Great. Professor Lauren Landau from the University of the Witwatersrand, that's based here in Johannesburg, South Africa. He's a leading expert on migration and governance, helping us unpack the implications of Rwanda's agreement with the United States to take in migrants deported from American soil.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge et Bina l'export depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Bringing you the energy, news, and good vibes to kickstart your day. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Well, today marks exactly 80 years since the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, a moment that changed the course of history and left deep humanitarian scars that are still felt to this day. Now, survivors continue to live with the impact, and the Japanese Red Cross Society remains at the heart of their care and advocacy. We're going to be taking a look at this. Atomic power has continued to be a big question. There are a few countries remaining in the world that have atomic weapons, and this has seen debate about who should be allowed to have them, who should be allowed to keep them. And to date, America is the only country that we know that has dropped atomic bombs, Hiroshima as well as Nagasaki. And so as we look back at 80 years since the bombing of Hiroshima, where are we today in terms of the use of atomic weapons and the danger that they pose in society today? And also, sadly, the legacy of what happened back 80 years ago during World War II. And has this, the people of Japan, some of them continued to live with some of the after effects of the use of atomic weapons back then. We're hoping to speak shortly to Professor Atsushi Seika, who's the president of the Japanese Red Cross Society, to give us a little sense, I think, of what 8 decades on, how people are thinking still about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which effectively ended World War II, if I remember correctly. All right, let's go now to Professor Seika. Thank you so much indeed. All right, okay. As I said, we're still trying to get hold of him so that we might be able to have the conversation with him. I believe he's on the line now. Professor Seika, thank you so much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program. Professor, it's been 8 decades since Hiroshima. What is the Japanese Red Cross Society still seeing in terms of long-term health impacts on atomic bomb survivors?
Well, thank you. The Japanese Red Cross Society has its own Red Cross hospitals, each one in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And these hospitals have been treating the atomic bomb survivors up to now. And from the experiences of these hospitals, we recognize that there have been physical symptoms such as leukemia as a long-term health effect of exposure to nuclear radiation. And beyond that, we also recognize social and psychological effect. When a nuclear explosion occurs, its impact is vast, extending across both space and times, creating a so-called
I joined this meeting.
Why is it important for younger generations in Japan and beyond to remember what happened at Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
Well, many people were turned to ash in an instance, and those who survived suffered long-term hardships with, their skin melting, their hair falling out, and many developed cancer. And it's important for younger generations to know it. But I would also like not only the younger generations, but also all generations to look directly at the fact. We should not forget the hardships of the atomic bomb survivors. Then, by knowing that, pursue humanity. And speaking of education, no matter how civilization we develop in the future through AI technology and other means, humanity is already clearly enshrined in international law. The international community must learn that the wisdom of mankind, such as international humanitarian law, must be protected, so that even if we unfortunately had an armed conflict, we can return to a normal life with as little impact as possible after the conflict. So with this knowledge, we hope that each and every one of us can develop a culture of nonviolence, respect human rights, and continue to explore lasting peace. Thank you.
The joint statement with the International Committee of the Red Cross urges nuclear disarmament. What role does the Japan Red Cross Society see itself playing in that advocacy?
Our role is, of course, to put humanity, which is human life and dignity, at the center of nuclear weapons debates. And I think that it is always important to remember what happened under the mushroom cloud, which means looking into and or listening to individual stories.
After 80 years, what's your message to governments that are still relying on nuclear weapons for their national security?
Well, I believe that the goal of achieving a world without nuclear weapons is shared worldwide. So as long as nuclear weapons exist, the unacceptable risk of their use will persist. So the total elimination of nuclear weapons is the only way to eliminate all risks associated with these weapons. The International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement will work with determination and energy in cooperation with all states to achieve this goal.
Professor Seika, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very, very much indeed for joining us on the program today to speak about this very difficult subject, which sadly one that we continue to live with, even though it's been 80 years since what happened at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Thank you so much indeed for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was Professor Atsushi Seika, who's the president of the Japanese Red Cross Society, talking to us on today, the 80th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And it was a very sad moment in history, effectively ending World War II, but the effects of what happened back then when the Americans dropped that atomic bomb are still being felt even to this day. You're listening to Channel Africa, where we bring you the African perspective, and the program is Rise and Shine. We've still got so much more to come. We'll tell you a little bit more about that in a short while. But first, it is now 7:30, which means it's time for your newsletter headlines with Joalane Tulo Ngwepe.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Making headlines, South Africa has raised concerns with Eswatini over the arrival of a group of high-risk criminals deported from the United States. The individuals are from various countries, and some of them have been convicted of serious crimes. Cameroon's Constitutional Council has dismissed an appeal by the opposition leader Maurice Kamto and confirmed he will not be allowed to stand as presidential candidate in elections in October. And finally, the interim leader of Bangladesh, Mohammed Yunus, says he'll ask the country's election commission to hold national elections next February. I will have details on these and other stories at 8 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Now, let's say good morning to Fikile Lengwati for the latest in sports. He's got our details.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
In this hour, we begin with football news. Defending champion Senegal opened their 2024 African Nations Championship CHAN campaign with a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Nigeria in their Group D opener at Aman Stadium in Zanzibar. The decisive moment came in the 74th minute when Christian Gomez calmly slotted the home after a swift counter-attack. Libase Goye initiated the move from midfield, finding Serigne Mokhtar Kouite, whose perfectly timed through ball released Gomez. This was the first ever CHAN meeting between the two nations. Senegal, champions in 2022, maintained their perfect record of winning every opening CHAN fixture, now 4 in a row. The result leaves Senegal top of Group D with 3 points, while Nigeria sit bottom and will need a positive outcome in their next fixture to keep their qualification hopes alive. On to boxing news. Women's boxing continues to make huge strides, with no less than 4 of the 7 bouts for Saturday's Women's Dame Zanzi Magic Card at Emperor's Palace to be contested between female fighters. Kaylee Swart and Simamgele Tunjeni will square off against one another of the vacant International Boxing Organization's Super Bantamweight Africa title. The feature bout will see Ricardo Magic Man Malajiga defend his IBO Junior Bantamweight title against Jason Mama of the Philippines. The chair of BSA, Ayanda Kumado, says providing a safe space for women in boxing is paramount.
Even with us as Boxing South Africa, it's very comforting to see women coming into spaces that will be safe for them, spaces that will really empower them, in the long run.
One of the standout bouts on the card is for the IBO Super Bantamweight Africa title. Kaylee Swart turned professional 2 years ago and is currently unbeaten after 5 fights, going into the biggest fight of her career.
We're seeing a rise in female rugby and soccer and cricket, but today and this week, this is us. This is our time, and I cannot wait to make a statement. This is my time, and I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do.
Now, cycling news fresh from winning Pupkevitz Mega Build Windhoek Women Tour. Kaverin Nirere said her focus is now on improving her performance at the 2025 UCI Road World Championship, which will take place in Kigali from the 21st to the 28th of September. Nirere, who plies a trade at the Kenyan club Team Amani, won the Windhoek Women Tour in Namibia after clocking 7 hours, 18 minutes and 42 seconds. She beat off tough challenge from the likes of teammates Mehawit Asgodom and Serkalem Watango. 7 hours 38.37 seconds. She says there is no stopping in performing well until she qualifies to participate in the World Championships in Kigali. Besides winning the yellow jersey for the overall race winner, Nirere was also named Best Sprinter with 28 points, 5 points ahead of Demarini Lagesi Lucy of Mauritius. Let's end with motor racing. McLaren's American chief executive Zach Brown says Cadillac's arrival in Formula One next year as an 11th team will bring added financial value with new partners and more fan engagement rather than diluting resources. The General Motors back team have taken staff already from rival outfits, their European headquarters at Silverstone, being close to other factories and are also competing for sponsorship. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lengwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Stella Longwe. Pamalonje.
Palitusokoma pano pamalonje. Kumvera nyimbo za mu Africa kusangalala kupeza moyo akuti kumva moyo kuti kuyenda bwino pano pamalonje ndiyetu apa tili ndikatswiri oyimba ameneyu ndikatswiri wa dziko la Malawi amene akukhala mdziko la South Africa ndipo amayimba amene akuti ndi Big Nick Malawi. Yatusani kuti kodi moyo wanu woyimba ukuyenda bwanji mu Johannesburg?
Moyo woyimba ukuyenda bwinobwino kwambiri, chiliyonse chikutheka ndithu bwinobwino.
Ayi aziwoneka chiliyonse chikutheka mofa magrasi anu apa mwaka akuti kumenya yonse aziwoneka zoti azikutheka ndithu mu Johannesburg.
Malonje panthawi ya 6 koloko kufikira 7 koloko madzulo. Lowiruka ndi Stella Longwe.
Right, let's take another turn to the business desk to find out what's been happening in the world of business, commerce and industry. And at the desk this morning, we say good morning to Tabiso Luhuko.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Peter, and good morning. A lobby group, the Foundation for Rights of Expression and Equality Free South Africa, says it's against the Public Service Insourcing Bill. The bill, supported by the Economic Freedom Fighters in Parliament, seeks to insource all essential and regularly required services. EFF Member of Parliament, Mpile Maotwe, says if the services were insourced, it would curb tender fraud and inflated pricing. Free SA Director Paul Maritz argues that if this proposed law is passed, it will inflate the wage bill, devastate small businesses, and derail the already strained public services.
We've also seen what happens when a state centralizes and then essentially insources to the max. They want everything to happen internally, and that essentially means more control for the state. And this is a state that's already struggling, as all of us know, as all of us feel.
The National Union of Mine Workers in South Africa says it has been told that one of the mining captains was dismissed for allegedly being involved in illegal mining at the Sheba gold mine in Barberton, Mpumalanga province. The NUM says that the company had been falsely accusing its members of selling food to illegal miners whilst they were being harassed by them. The union welcomed the arrest of 550 illegal miners operating at the mine since Friday. NUM spokesperson Lipuani Mampur.
We are not happy because our members, when they go underground, they don't feel safe. These Ramazamas, while our members are underground, they forcefully take their food. And at the same time, the company threatens our members that they are selling food to these Ramazamas.
Customs officials at Nigeria's Lagos International Airport say they had seized more than 1,600 parrots and canaries that were being transported to Kuwait without a permit, in one of the biggest such seizures in years. In a statement, the agency says that the cargo of live birds, which included ring-necked parakeets and yellow-fronted canaries, was intercepted by customs officials at the airport on the 31st of July. Nigeria, which has become a transit hub for trafficking in wildlife and wildlife products, is a signatory to the Convention on International Trade Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. South Africa's biggest grocery retailer, Shoprite Holdings, says it is selling its operations in Ghana and Malawi. The company says that this is in a bid to consolidate its activities across Africa to focus more on its home market. The planned sales follow exits from Nigeria, Kenya, Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, and Madagascar. Shoprite has also restricted capital allocations to its supermarkets outside South Africa. Oil prices climbed, rebounding from a 5-week low in the previous day on concerns of supply disruptions after U.S. President Donald Trump's threats of tariffs on India over its Russian crude purchases. Brent crude futures rose 29 US cents or 0.4% to $67.93 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was at $65.44 a barrel, up 28 cents or 0.4%. Both contracts fell by more than $1 on Tuesday to settle at their lowest in 5 weeks, marking a fourth session of losses on oversupply concerns from OPEC Plus's planned September output hike. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,525 naira. Botswana 13.39, Kenya 128 shilling 4, and Zambia 22 kwacha 90. The BRICS countries in Brazil, the dollar there will cost you R5.50. Russia, 79 rubles 93. India, 87 rupees 81. China, 7 yuan 18. And in South Africa, the dollar will cost you 17 rand 93 cents. $1 is trading at 75 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Gold is $3,378 and platinum $1,315 per ounce. Brand crude oil is at $68.02 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Tabisolo Hogo.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628.
South African Broadcasting Corporation, or SABC Sport, brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about South Africa's national rugby team, the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. It started on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2, and you can tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroes that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
There's still uncertainty surrounding the future of Lesotho's textile industry after the United States cut the country's reciprocal tariff rate to 15%. Now, last week, President Donald Trump slashed the tariffs from the 50% that he had threatened to impose in April. Lesotho's textile sector, its leading export industry, was heavily dependent on the Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, AGOA, which offers qualifying African nations duty-free access to the U.S. markets. Wanolo Maribe reports.
Lesotho has been given a revised tariff rate of 15% as the nation continues to bear the brunt of the 50% that the U.S. administration had threatened to implement in April. As a result, many U.S. importers cancelled orders for Lesotho-produced textiles, which led to the loss of many jobs. Despite the drastic tariff decrease, Lesotho's Trade Minister Mokhethi Shelile has expressed concern over the future of the textile industry.
We have particularly two countries that are going to be giving us a bit of a run for the money. This is Eswatini and Kenya. They both have 10%, and they are both in the same market as us. And it will be quite easy for the buyers to switch their allegiance to these two countries.
Lesotho Chamber of Commerce CEO Faku Akane has expressed deep concern about the tariffs that have been imposed on the Mountain Kingdom.
Everybody's worried for the simple reason that, the transport associations, the accommodation, all those are going to suffer because with the firms closing, it is going to be very difficult for us to make ends meet.
An entrepreneur in Lesotho, Bafane Nkotsi, says that the government should not panic when dealing with the tariff issue.
I was not too pleased by our quick reaction. I believe the 15% moving from 0 to 15 or from 50 to 15, whichever way you look at it, presented an opportunity for Lesotho. I think LNDC, through the Ministry of Trade, should have sat down and re-strategized in terms of what they would need to do to sustain the already few jobs remaining in the textile industry.
Economic analyst Thabo Klesi echoed the same concerns, saying that the revised rate has done little to revive the sector.
The U.S. market was very big and paying very good, in dollars. And the factories here, they were able to make huge profit because once you import raw materials for export purposes, you don't pay duties.
This is what some workers in Lesotho had to say.
I wish that there could be something for us, like job opportunities, so that we can achieve our dreams or our goals, something.
I now have a big problem because the money that I was making is not there anymore. I was earning between 2,900 and 3,000 rands. Now I don't have it. It is now month end and I'm just here at home and there is no income coming in.
Now I'm out of a job for about a month now. We are now here looking for the job. It has been very difficult. This has affected us in a very negative way. Bonolo Maripe, SABC News.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
South Africa's Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, Gwede Mantashe, has called for unified action and a stronger marketing drive to protect and promote the value of natural diamonds. Speaking at a high-level stakeholder consultation on Tuesday, Mantashe underscored that natural diamonds remain a national treasure, even amid economic challenges. He urged industry players to commit to a coherent strategy and a dedicated marketing fund to showcase the preciousness of South Africa's diamonds globally. Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe has more.
The purpose of the engagement was to strengthen collaboration between government and key players in the diamond industry and to address critical issues affecting the sector's growth and transformation. The consultation brought together stakeholders across the diamond value chain, including mining companies, diamond cutters and polishers, exporters, traders and regulatory bodies to align efforts on beneficiation, policy implementation and industry development. In his remarks, South Africa's Minerals Minister Gwede Mantashe told the stakeholders that diamonds are valuable and called for efficient global marketing.
Very important. Natural diamonds are particularly precious. They are precious. We must not reduce them because it's going through a difficult period. As we go through this period, one of the things we must do, we must promote diamonds as being precious, as being valuable. That's why that marketing fund is important, that we must tell the world how precious natural diamonds are. That's what it's all about. And I'm offering to be the chief marketer of diamonds. But we must commit the 1%, then I market it.
Participants were given opportunities to air their views, challenges and proposals. In giving feedback, Mantashe noted that their inputs were isolated.
There are quite a number of proposals that have been made here, but they are very fragmented. They come in trips and tracks, and as a result of that, they become less coherent. For example, if I leave this meeting, I don't have something coherent that I can take to government. As I met the diamond sector, this is what they are proposing. I don't have that. That talks to the urgency of the meeting I talked about earlier. When we look into the structure of the sector, you are in the sector, you are not the same. Okay, you are not the same. You are at the various points of the value chain of diamonds.
One of the pressing matter is the issue of exploration of rough diamonds. Speaking to industry players, Shongile Maluleke of Nova Holdings Company dealing with diamonds highlighted some of the challenges they are confronted with.
We are in a position where we want to explore, as the minister had said, that we do need more exploration. And we do have the facility to explore. But the problem comes with the equipment that needs to follow up with the facility. And the equipment and starting up a new exploration project is expensive. And having access to those funds, especially as a new company that's willing to explore, it brings us back down to another challenge. Because the minister did explain that we do need to explore, but how do you explore if you don't have the funds to explore? And with that, it then places new companies such as ourselves under predicament situations where we need to then get partnerships or find someone that is willing to join us or provide equipment so that we can explore and get to where your other big five are. And with that, we've realized, or the challenges that we have come across, is that there is a lot of exploitation in terms of they will request higher percentage of sales without contributing anything. So in the end, as the company ourselves, we suffer a very huge loss, because if we lose everything, and your partner or your big five investors will lose nothing.
However, she appreciated the gathering while raising a serious concern over an equal playing field.
The importance of us coming together as an industry and discussing the challenges that we are facing, especially within the natural diamond sector. We are in a position where it is tough to start up, especially if you are a new company such as ourselves, just over a year entering the market. And as one of my other colleagues had said, that he had his license for 10 years and still nothing has happened. We are in an industry where it's, if you know someone, you'll get somewhere. If you don't know anyone, you're most likely going to be stuck in the same position for a very long time.
Next, we spoke to Shadrach Khadebe, the director of AMC Sharon Diamond Venture, a cutting and polishing company who is worried about a decline in adequate supply.
in our situation, in our cutting and polishing company, we see a lot of declining in this industry. Now we need to understand now what is now the dominating factors of the industry now being fading so fast. And then now the lack of rough that is coming through from the producer side. Now it causes now a very, very negative effect into the cutting and polishing, whereby now all these companies now, we are now struggling now, you understand, to cut more diamonds or even now to have enough work for our employees.
Representing Labour National Union of Mining, Deputy President Ulehile Hware stressed the need for transparency and shared responsibility. He called on employers to include workers in both good and bad times, arguing that employees must benefit during prosperous periods and not only be consulted during crises.
When there's shiny days, employers must be able to share the shiny days with the employees. It will not be that only when there are problems and the industry is in distress that these poor individuals must begin to understand that indeed we're in distress. We must be able to celebrate with them even when things are better. We must be able to take them along. The element of transparency where you work is very much important. Make sure that they understand where you are. And it should not be when things are like this that you want to pull them and make them understand. Surely the timing may not be correct and we may find a little bit of resistance.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
In South Africa, the number of suspected illegal gold miners who've emerged from the underground tunnel at a mine in the Mpumalanga province has now risen to 550. Now, these miners, who commonly referred to as zamazamas, which is a local term meaning those who try their luck, have been operating without permits, often in dangerous and abandoned mine shafts. Authorities say that 30 more resurfaced on Tuesday, adding to the hundreds already detained. Many are expected to appear in court. Mtobi Simkalipi has more.
Operations aimed at clamping down illegal mining at the Barberton mines are continuing. The operations are carried out by the mine's private security company. More than 28 suspected illegal miners resurfaced on Tuesday morning. This while 2 more resurfaced in the afternoon. One of them was brought out on a stretcher after sustaining injuries underground. Police spokesperson Donald Mhluli explains.
We've got 2 illegal miners that have resurfaced, and one of them seems to have been badly injured. Today, earlier we had 28, so now with these 2, the number will be 30. So now the number reaches to a total of 550. So we cannot clearly say that there are no others that were there.
Owners of Barberton mines, Pan-African Resources, believes the majority of the illegal miners have resurfaced. Pan-African Resources spokesperson Hethan Hera.
Our security has confirmed that a majority of the camps have been cleared and there are no large groups remaining underground. The original 1,000 number was an estimate and the 500 were processed approximately, but as far as we know there are no large groups underground at the moment. We've cleared the areas that we know, but there are access points. As you can see, this area is huge. It's vast. There's a lot of adits. There could be people going back to areas where they have left equipment or to get what remains there of whatever there was left.
One of the locals, who is also a Zamazama, Golfrey Sithole, claims there are many illegal miners still underground.
Yes, we are communicating with them. I believe that there are more than 2,000. We are communicating with them through the security guys. They are fine. We are going to come back several times until we die, until the Barberton mines start to recognize this community. Because if we were employed by Barberton mines, we are going to defend this mine. We will never ever allow people from outside to vandalize our infrastructure down there. But because of the arrogance of Barberton mines, we are not going to defend them.
The 24 illegal miners who were arrested on Monday are expected to appear at the Barberton Magistrates Court on Wednesday. I'm Toby Simkalipi in Barberton, Mpumalanga.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet, Channel 628. In this episode of Channel Africa Conversations, Peter talks to Dr. Tulisile Buddha, an academic, author, and an expert in indigenous knowledge systems. Join us for a compelling discussion on preserving African languages and traditions in the digital era. Dr. Tulisile unpacks the role of educators, explorers, and how technologies like AI can support cultural preservation, and challenges us to rethink how we honor African heritage. You can find the episode on YouTube, SABC Plus, and on our website, channelafrica.co.za. This episode is a must-listen for educators, creators, and change makers across the continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
Today is the 6th of August. I'm going to take you back to 1979. And on this day, Paul Biya was appointed Prime Minister of Cameroon by the then President Amadou Ahidjo. Now, this set the stage for Paul Biya's eventual succession to the presidency in 1982. Yeah, a position that he still holds to this day. And
he wants to continue until he's 100 years old.
Exactly. So it all began in 1979 when he became the country's prime minister. And today's also a special day in Jamaica, because Jamaica got its independence from the United Kingdom and joined the Commonwealth of Nations. Sir Alexander Bustamante became the island's first prime minister. So Jamaica became an independent nation today in 1962.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, one love.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 Central African Time on Channel Africa.
Right, we enter now the third and final hour of Rise and Shine. Thank you for staying with us as Channel Africa. You tuned in to our live streaming via YouTube. That's at Channel Africa 1. That handle is also across our various social media networks of X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as well as LinkedIn. Also, we are on the SABC Plus app, as well as www.channelafrica.co.za. It's Wednesday, the 6th of August. My name is Asanda Beda.
I'm going to teach you some Shona now.
Okay.
So in Shona we say Mangwanani for good morning.
Mangwanani.
Yes, so Mangwanani Asanda Beda.
I'll remember it with that spa. There's a spa called Mangwanani
there
spa
you
or something.
go.
Then I won't forget it.
There you go. I'm Peter Ndoro. Thanks so much indeed for joining us in this hour. And the reason I'm speaking Shona is because we're going to be speaking in our Wednesday profile to a Zimbabwean, Fungai Jessie Majome. She's currently the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission and the leader of the SADC Regional Commission on Human Rights, career lawyer, and also a former deputy minister in Zimbabwe. We're going to be chatting to her about her life's work and many things that she's been up to in Zimbabwe. That's all coming up in the next 30 minutes, that conversation that I'll be having with her. But first, let's catch you up with the news. And at the desk this morning, Joalani Tulo Mwepe.
SABC News. The African perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. South Africa has raised concerns with Eswatini over the arrival of a group of high-risk criminals deported from the United States. The individuals are from various countries and some of them have been convicted of serious crimes. According to the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, Eswatini and the US intend to work with the International Organization for Migration to return their inmates to their home countries. DIRCO notes, however, that it is unlikely say they will be accepted. Spokesperson for the Minister, Crispin Piri.
Whilst respecting the sovereign decision of the government of Eswatini, the government of the Republic of South Africa is deeply concerned about the profile of these individuals and the potential adverse impact on South Africa's national security and immigration policy, given the geographical proximity between the two sisterly countries.
Zimbabwe says it will not cover the medical bills for its people in South Africa, but stressed that basic human rights must be respected. Chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, Jesse Majome, has pointed out different types of Zimbabweans in South Africa, arguing that emergency care should not be withheld based on their country of origin. This follows South Africa's Public Protector's Office confirmation that it has no record of complaints from Zimbabwe's Human Rights Commission regarding Zimbabweans being denied health care in the country. Majome explains.
There was a conversation pertaining to this issue that had started way back then. I want to imagine that the South African Public Protector would be interested also in, the reports that the service delivery is being hampered by an influx of foreign nationals. And we agreed, and my concern as the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission is that as well, it is also of concern that if Zimbabwean nationals are also seek services abroad and then encounter such treatment that affronts their dignity.
Cameroon's Constitutional Council has dismissed an appeal by the opposition leader Maurice Kamto and confirmed he will not be allowed to stand as a presidential candidate in elections in October. Kamto, who came second in the 2018 election, was seen as a potential strong challenger to the 92-year-old incumbent President Paul Biya. Paul Njie reports.
Maurice Kamto stormed out of the Constitutional Council premises in disappointment without saying a word. His lawyers said the decision to exclude him from the presidential election was more political than legal. The electoral body ruled out Kamto's candidacy because the party which endorsed him presented another candidate from a rival faction. As fears of possible tensions grow, police and gendarmes armed with riot gear have been stationed in key parts of the city to prevent any form of protests.
The appointment of an African National Congress MP to head an ad hoc committee looking into alleged threats to national security in South Africa has sparked opposition criticism. ANC MP Molapi Soviet Lekhanyane chairs the committee, probing claims by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Ndedla Mkhwanazi that some senior police officials, including Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, have ties with criminal syndicates. Mchunu has been placed on special leave. Opposition Party Action SA MP Dereline James and Economic Freedom Fighters MP Leanne Matthys questioned the decision.
How do we garner public trust when we have a chairperson that has been elected from the very party where most of these people are embroiled in?
It was an opportunity that was missed by the GNU partners, starting with the ANC, to build confidence in the country, particularly on this horrific issue of crime.
The interim leader of Bangladesh, Mohammed Yunus, says he'll ask the country's election commission to hold elections next February. He made the remarks on the one-year anniversary of the fall of the autocratic government. He's promised democracy and the rule of law following the autocratic rule of Sheikh Hasina. Yunus also gave national hero status to hundreds of people during the uprising last year.
On the anniversary of the uprising, I solemnly remember the nation's brightest sons, the martyrs of July, with deep respect. I pray for the forgiveness of their souls. To those who were injured, maimed, or lost their sight in July, I extend the nation's gratitude and respect.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Cholani Tulo Wepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headlines, the Wallabies will
Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
It's Wednesday, and this is a day that we shine a spotlight on Africans that are contributing or have contributed in their lifetimes to our continent. And this morning we profile a woman whose career has spanned the courtrooms, the corridors of Parliament, and now the front lines of human rights advocacy. Fungai Jesse Majome, who is the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission and also leads the SADC Regional Commission of Human Rights. A trained lawyer and former Deputy Minister of Justice, she played a key role in Zimbabwe's post-independence constitutional reform and has remained a strong voice for justice, accountability and gender equality. And she speaks to us now about her journey, her convictions, her role as a human rights defender, and how she is hoping and helping and shaping a fairer society across the continent. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program. Mauya.
Atenda.
Let's begin, Jesse, with what inspired your path into law and eventually public service.
Thank you, Peter. I would say that it's because I'm a very opinionated person. I have opinions on everything. So I'm the kind of person who has convictions that things can be done and can be done better. And I like to do my part to influence the way that things are done for the better, guided by my opinion. So this is what inspired me into law, because it's a natural fit for a person like me who thinks certain things and has things to say, and has hopes that things can be and must be different for the better. So I think maybe the law chose me. I don't know.
Tell me, growing up in post-colonial Zimbabwe, what were the early influences that shaped your sense of justice and human rights?
Okay. I would say that it's mainly my parents. I am fortunate to have been born of middle-class parents which is unusual for people of my color and people of my country at that time. My parents were privileged to have had education. My father was, interestingly, he graduated at the University College of Rhodesia, as it was called, in 1967 with a Bachelor of Science in Economics. And of course, he couldn't find work. There were no jobs for Black people like that. But it was through, because he was actually orphaned, and he was fortunate to be able to be educated by bursaries. And my mother was a state registered nurse who also qualified at about the same time. They met just when they finished their careers in 1967, and she was a midwife, a registered midwife as well. So my parents' work ethic and their values about justice, fairness, and truth and frankness are what inspired me in pre-colonial Zimbabwe. And I realized then, I wasn't very. It wasn't very clear. Well, it was because I led a life that I had access to opportunities that a lot of my fellow Black people didn't have because of the professional status of my parents, but they contributed a lot to as middle-class professionals, because many did, to the liberation struggle. And I have an innate sense of justice, is what I have come to understand about myself, and I feel very strongly about injustice, and again, and I like to do something about it. So this is how I grew up, and I was influenced, I want to say, by that.
Was there a particular moment you remember, perhaps, that pushed you from private legal work into politics and national governance?
I would say it was a progression, because growing up as a woman, as a girl then, and then as a Black woman, there were messages I was getting from my environment that I didn't agree with. That is the formal environment that women are inferior. They were not full citizens in terms of the law of Zimbabwe, because the colonial, I suppose, authorities decided when they came to colonize us that for some reason Black women are perpetual minors. They created that fiction, and when they introduced the formal legal system, it had the position that black women are perpetual minors and they are subservient and customary law is bad for women, etc. And so I didn't agree with that. I have no doubt at all that I am a full and equal human being, and I deserve no less. So that sense of justice led me to also continue to advocate for changes in the law, because the constitution we had then particularly allowed women to be discriminated against in matters where that matter the most, that is in matters of the application of customary law, the appropriation of public revenues, as well as also matters of personal law. So that is clearly unjust, it's untenable. So that had to change. Then you've just reminded me again about, just what inspired me again. When I was younger, I realized that when I was very young, I was advocating for justice and for change. Because you asked me about growing up as in the colonial times, but a memory that I have just post-colonial, in 1981, just after Zimbabwe acquired its independence in 1980. And then in 1981, I was one of those fortunate Black African children who had a chance to be admitted to what were only white-only schools. And this was at primary school. I think I was just about 8 years old, 7 years old. And when we got into these schools, I distinctly remember the environment. It was almost electric, because there were all of a sudden, this mass of Black children are now at the school. And there are these white children who have for generations and, well, not in their lifetime, only known about white privilege and treating Black people as inferior. So there were instances where we were told that we were not allowed to speak Shona. And I didn't agree with that. I realized quickly that these white children are actually the ones who are policing, in quotations, the language bar, and they're doing so because they will feel disempowered, that if we speak Shona, they will not understand what it is we're doing, and they're not accustomed to that. So I refused. And then I also even conscripted my father to protest against some. There was a racist hymn that we were made to sing. You must remember, this is just exactly the year after independence. Inside the school hymn books, they were pasted some, the Rhodesian national anthem, and on the other side, a hymn that was called the Pioneers Anthem, which extolled in a very, like a very idyllic and romanticized manner, the trek of the pioneer column from the Cape of Good Hope all the way up to Harare, when they put up the Union Jack at the Harare Kopi under the British South African Company. So it was sung in the first person. I don't know if I have time to. It's a beautiful tune, but it was extolling the
Yeah.
heroism of the fathers. And if we had time, I'd sing like a line. And I had difficulty. Just felt something in me just protested against this.
Yeah.
And I got the help of my father to write to the Ministry of Education. And then the hymns were taken out. And also even some racist texts were taken out of books, because I later did the same thing. So this is what I think it's my sense of justice that that pushes
Yeah.
me, propels me to try and have things change for the better, for fairness.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize just how difficult the early 80s were. I mean, independence did come, but transition took quite a while to actually manifest. But let's fast forward a little bit to post-independent Zimbabwe, because as you were describing just now, you played a major role in the constitutional reform process during Zimbabwe's government of national unity. A lot had been going on in the country, and I think you were an MDC politician at that time. What stands out for you from that process, but both in terms of lessons and legacy? Because some people would say it was a great exercise, but a lot of what the Constitution stands for, sadly, is being ignored or not enjoyed.
Thank you for that question. It's a poignant and difficult question. I will say that I think the biggest lesson I learned is that transformation is a process. it's a difficult process. It will not always allow you to win everything all at once, but if you secure the anchors of change, I think you are on your way there, and you must then do, I think, more, maybe the more equally difficult, let me say equally difficult work of pushing through to ensure that those gains for positive changes are realized, because they are not going to self-enact. They have to be pushed, prodded, and I think ignited into life. So this is the reality about Zimbabwe from different perspectives. I would even say, even from a women's human rights perspective, from a broader human rights perspective, from a democratic perspective, but that it's when you get to the it's actually a starting line, is what I've realized, that we are by the democratic changes that came to Zimbabwe through I would say the government of national unity, as it was called. I usually quip that that I had the privilege to be in. That well, the people call it a GNU. I beg to differ. There was, in my view, there was some essence of government, very little of national, and even less of unity. So I call it a transitional coalition government. So that brought a lot of changes from total autocratic rule from Zimbabwe, and then the global political agreement then, which also then, as I think its biggest product, its biggest victory, is the Constitution of 2013, which again was a compromise, I suppose, as all constitutions should be, because people have different perspectives, but it put us to a better state. And I would say that that better position is actually a starting line for the transformation that we require. And I find, like former colleagues, was I was in the opposition, I was in the MDC. And I was in charge of all of its legal affairs at some point and constitutional affairs. And I find with a lot of sadness that a lot of my former comrades have, some of them have become despondent, more or less a lot of them, who are still committed to the idea of, like broader democracy and human rights in Zimbabwe. It's almost as if they expected that now we've got it, then it's there. But unfortunately, it's there. We need to make the institutions like the one that I am in work. I do not shirk, responsibility to serve my country, because it needs people to keep hoping and keep pushing. So that, and keep moving and extending the line, so that we cover the whole, like country. Our hopes with the values and the progress that we made. As I said, they are not going to self-implement. They are not going to self-actuate. We need to strengthen institutions such as the one that I have the privilege, I take it as a big privilege to be able to lead the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, and that people need to get into positions. They need to aspire to, if they get the opportunity, they must serve, and they must serve so that we fulfill the values of an open society that's democratic, where every Zimbabwean leads a prosperous, happy, and fulfilling life, because that is what Section 8 of our Constitution provides. And by the way, that's my favorite section of the Constitution, because it actually has the word happy, that we must aspire, that everybody in Zimbabwe, and also of Zimbabwe who's abroad, must be happy. And this is what government, in terms of the Constitution, must wake up to do every morning, to devise policies and programs that lead to that. And it needs everyone to work for it, and not for people to stand across on the river and point fingers and just criticize without being part of the solution, because it really takes all of us in our different ways.
All right, we're going to talk about your work at the Human Rights Commission just now, but I do want to take you a step back to the role that you played at the Anti-Corruption Unit. And I'm curious about how challenging a job it must have been, because for a long time you were on opposite sides of the governing party in terms of politics, and yet here you're now appointed as a commissioner of the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission. How difficult was it to be in that role to try and fight corruption when people point to very senior leaders in the governing party as being among the most corrupt?
Thank you for that question. I want to start by actually referring to an issue that I think Zimbabweans especially need to take note of, because we are an extremely polarized society. And the polarization that we are, the political polarization stems from our history and from the were very dark and very painful experiences that our country suffered. There are people who were lost all in the name of political, seeking, to express their different political voices and seeking to get political office. But if we continue to be locked in that, we decide in our minds that that's exactly where we still are, when we've clearly moved on, even in terms of time, we will miss opportunities for change. So, and I'm saying this because why? Because we, in 2013, on the 22nd of May, the former president of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, assented to a constitution that was voted by about a 94%, which is thunderous, majority in a referendum. And we adopted a constitution. When we created institutions such as the commission that I'm in, we borrowed a lot from the South African constitution as for independent commissions that support democracy, and also from other constitutions on the continent. And then we also created, we elevated the Anti-Corruption Commission from a statutory commission into a constitutional commission, which is also independent. And it is actually it is independent as the Constitution entrenches, and the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And one of the measures to secure the independence of such commissions is in the appointment process of the commissioners as well as the head. The head of the commission is appointed by presidential prerogative, but the 8 commissioners are appointed through a democratic process that is led by the leadership of Parliament, which is the Committee on Standing Rules and Orders of Parliament, which I can say is a cross-party, and because in Zimbabwe we have traditional leaders in the legislature. I call it a cross-party and cross-chief committee. So it represents the composition of Parliament to the letter in terms of the various parties, and then plus even a chief according to their proportions, and it's led by the Speaker. So when vacancies are in place, the Constitution requires that the Committee on Standing Rules and Orders invite nominations from the public. And so the public can nominate anyone that they wish to, who they believe can serve on that commission. And the Committee on Standing Rules and Orders then selects people from there. If they meet the basic criteria in the Constitution, they invite them for public interviews, and anyone can attend.
Right.
And maybe even give some ideas to the commission, to the Committee of Parliament beforehand. And the commission...
do you know what, Jesse? I'm going to rush you a little bit because we're running out of time. How difficult was it to do the job? Because, as I said, Zimbabwe is certainly notorious for politicians and corruption. Were you able to have an impact?
Yes, I can say we had an impact. I had the privilege of leading the legal department of it. Would you believe, this is not known a lot, but the conviction rate for during the time that I was there, in the last 2 or 3 years, the conviction rate for matters investigated by the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission and prosecuted through was about 74%. And of course, people are right that they want to see what are called bigwigs. There were a lot of, some bigwigs that were also arrested and prosecuted, but unfortunately, one of them was convicted, a former minister. And our commission resulted in 2 ministers being removed from office during their time. That was the former Minister of Labour, and one of them was the former Minister of Health. But what then happened in the courts now is something beyond the Anti-Corruption Commission, because the prosecution is independent from it and the courts are independent. But like I said, I think it's a process that yeah, it
A
was
lot needs
difficult,
still
let
to
me say,
happen.
and we need. Yes, and by the way, also incidentally, also nominations for commissioners of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission are open now. The Committee on Standing Rules and Orders has invited nominations for for 6 commissioners. So, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because I'm inviting Zimbabweans to nominate Zimbabweans who they think can serve with various skills, not just law, in my view, not just lawyers and social scientists, but even civil engineers, health professionals, physical planning professionals, financial professionals, and also environmental professionals and such
All
people,
right.
because
Well,
and lawyers as well.
now that you've brought it up, let's talk about your work at the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. What's the state of human rights in the country? Because what we read about and what we hear from civic organizations is that it's not a great state of affairs. What's your view? What are you seeing?
I see a lot of good, a lot of good. I actually believe Zimbabwe is doing very well regarding the promotion and fulfillment of human rights because of where we've come from in the atrocities that happened, as well as also because we have a constitution and also laws that were then changed in order to fulfill it. However, there's a fly in the ointment. And that fly in the ointment is political interest. Whenever that ugly monster rears its head, there seems to be an amnesia in those who bear state power. When they're doing so very well, otherwise to fulfill rights, when that happens, we see instances where, let's say, for example, political activists or people with cases that are of political interest somehow not enjoying the same treatment, like the right, because we have an entrenched right to bail. They are in detention for very long periods that are, in my view, unjustified because the constitution requires that they be granted bail like everyone. And across the country, hundreds of thousands of Zimbabweans are enjoying that right, which is revolutionary.
So,
and hundreds
so
of thousands
Jesse,
of
what can you do about that? You see it, but what can you do about it?
The way that that can get us out of this is dialogue and engagement. In my own mission as the chair in my term, which is just 5 years, and I'm goodness, three only are left because one is done and we're in the middle of one. My hope is to contribute to changing the narrative by reminding those who hold government power of their duty, and that they have to they have to fulfill those rights, and that they're actually doing them themselves, but in the minority of cases, but which have a lot of resonance. That they allow violations that then eclipse everything else. So engagement and dialogue and reminding them that particularly the ZANU-PF, the party in power, that it is actually, in my view, the biggest human rights defender, because the prosecution of the liberation struggle was actually a human rights struggle to the death. So if they remember that is who they are, and that they have a lot of moral high ground, and that they need to continue to do that, and that there's no that is what indeed that the liberation was for, and it's not detrimental to anyone. I think we will get there because, like I said, they're doing very well. Otherwise, they need to feel that they're not in the dock and everybody's just pointing fingers and accusing them. But where they've done well, we commend it and we encourage better to be done, but that they need to do well in each and every case, including in cases where their political rivals are involved, because it doesn't help anyone.
Yeah, Jesse, I wish I could talk to you for an hour because there's so much to cover, but perhaps as we start to wrap up, I know that the region is also important to you as the SADC Regional Commission, a lead of the SADC Regional Commission on Human Rights. You recently called out the South African authorities over alleged denial of healthcare to Zimbabwean migrants. Why did you feel that it was so necessary to speak out? And some would say, but hang on, it's because Zimbabwe is failing its own citizens that they're ending up crossing the border going into South Africa. So is it not Zimbabwe in the first instance that's abusing the rights to healthcare before they get to South Africa?
Absolutely. The Zimbabwean government has a duty to fulfill the economic, social, and cultural rights of Zimbabweans, such as the right to healthcare. And as the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, we continue to urge it to continue increasing funding so that we meet the regional targets, like at least 15% of healthcare, and improve all the other issues that are at risk. But I did not call out the South African authorities. It's interesting that I've had years of working in the media when I was a former politician, but sometimes what you say is then, let me say, spun. What I did was to express the concern of the treatment of Zimbabweans, because they are Zimbabweans, they have a right to dignity, and indicate that just because it's an observation, apart from being the chairperson of the SADC National Human Rights Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, I also sit on the governing bureau on the world body of National Human Rights Institutions. We called the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, the GANRI Bureau, where we that promotes rights in the world for human rights institutions all over the world, and which are rated for being independent, such as ours. So I represent Southern Africa on that GANRI board. And there are Southern African nationals as well that are beyond Zimbabwe
Right.
that are also experiencing that. So it's in all of our respective countries must fulfill the duties, but we must, it's of concern when rights are violated. Because
Right.
imagine if COVID were, for example, to come back and people who are not from, let's say, from South Africa, are in the denied healthcare. Health. That's why there's a reason why healthcare is a fundamental
Yeah.
right, because it affects everyone. It's in everybody's interest and
Jesse,
everybody's dignity.
I wish we could talk for longer, and it's been such a fascinating conversation and an extreme pleasure to have had you on the program. I really just want to say thank you so much for joining us and the work that you've been doing. Tinotenda zvikuru tataura nemi nhasi.
Muchitendei muswere zvakanaka. Thank you.
Thank you so much indeed. That was Fungai Jesse Majome, chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission and current chair of the SADC Region Commission for Human Rights, speaking to us about her lifetime's experiences and the work she has been doing over the years and currently with the Human Rights Commission. It's a little late, but it's time now for your news headlines. Here's Chwalane Tulongwepe.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Making headlines. South Africa has raised concerns with Eswatini over the arrival of a group of high-risk criminals deported from the United States. The individuals are from various countries and some of them have been convicted of serious crimes. There was no evidence of widespread bullying, harassment or misogyny at the Sindebali charity founded by Prince Harry in Lesotho. This is according to the charity regulator. And finally, Japan has signed a deal to supply advanced stealth frigates to Australia in its most significant foreign defense sales since it lifted an arms export ban in 2014. I will have details on these and other stories at 9 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Let's say good morning once again to Fikile Lingwati. He's got our sports news.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Let's kick off with rugby news. Wallabies head coach Josh Schmidt will be free to select overseas-based players moving forward. Rugby Australia Director of High Performance Peter Horn has confirmed that Australia follows South Africa's lead in widening its selection pool. Horn considered that the G12 law had become kind of redundant. The Springbok ditched their selection policies in 2018, allowing the newly appointed head coach Rassie Erasmus to select players around the world, removing any kind of requirements. On to football news. Senegal, the defending champions, opened their 2024 African Nations Championship CHAN campaign with a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Nigeria in the Group D opener at Aman Stadium, Zanzibar. The decisive moment came in the 74th minute when Christian Gomez calmly slotted home after a sweet counter-attack. Boxing news. Women's boxing continues to make huge strides with no less than 4 of the 7 bouts for Saturday's Women's Day Mzansi Magic card at Emperor's Palace to be contested between female fighters. BSA Ayanda Kumalo says providing a safe space for women in boxing is paramount.
Even with us as Boxing South Africa, it's very comforting to see women coming into spaces that will be safe for them, spaces that will really empower them, in the long run.
And finally, fresh from winning Pupenkevit's Mega Build Windhoek Women Tour, Zahraverine Nirere has said her focus is now on improving her performance at the 2025 UCI Road World Championship, which will take place in Kigali from the 21st to the 28th of September. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fili Lungwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
This August, we celebrate the strength, brilliance, and unstoppable spirit of African women.
It was the women themselves who strove for and got the changes by lobbying, going through NGOs, and by networking.
That's you, ladies. From the boardroom to the classroom, from the marketplace to the microphone, women are leading, innovating, and transforming our continent every day.
Oh, here's to knowing that as a woman, your voice can change the world.
Your voice matters. Your story inspires. Your presence is powerful. This Women's Month, we honor you. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Right, it's time for some business news. Here's Tabiso Luhuko.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thanks, Peter, and good morning. A lobby group, the Foundation for Rights of Expression and Equality Free South Africa, says it's against the Public Service Insourcing Bill. The bill, supported by the economic freedom fighters in Parliament, seeks to insource all essential and regularly required services. EFF Member of Parliament Mpilo Maotwe says if the services were insourced, it would curb tender fraud and inflated pricing. Free SA Director Paul Moritz argues that if this proposed law is passed, it will inflate the wage bill, devastate small businesses and derail the already strained public service.
We've also seen what happens when a state centralizes and then essentially insources to the max. They want everything to happen internally, and that essentially means more control for the state. And this is a state that's already struggling, as all of us know, as all of us feel.
The National Union of Mine Workers in South Africa says it has been told that one of the mining captains was dismissed for allegedly being involved in illegal mining at the Sheba gold mine in Barberton, Mpumalanga province. The NUM says that the company has been falsely accused of its members of selling food to illegal miners whilst they were being harassed by them. The union welcomed the arrest of 550 illegal miners operating at the mine since Friday. NUM spokesperson Lupuwane Mamburu.
We are not happy because our members, when they go underground, they don't feel safe. These Ramazamas, while our members are underground, they forcefully take their food. And at the same time, the company threatens our members that they are selling food to these Ramazamas.
President Donald Trump's administration will require visa applicants from Zambia and Malawi to pay bonds of up to $15,000 for some tourist and business visas under a pilot program launching in 2 weeks. Yesterday, the U.S. State Department confirmed that it could require bonds amounting to $15,000. It says any citizen or national traveling on a passport issued by one of these countries who is found otherwise eligible for a B1, B2 visa must post a bond in amounts of $5, $10, or $15,000 determined at a time of a visa interview. President Donald Trump has said levies on imported medicines could rise as high as 250%, saying he wants pharmaceuticals to be made in the United States. Correspondents say India and Switzerland are among the countries that stand to lose the most. The BBC's Michelle Fleury has the details.
The pharmaceutical industry is something that the president has set his sights on, saying that higher tariffs are on the way. Part of the goal here is to increase tariffs to try and bring manufacturing to the United States, but it takes a lot of time.
ChatGPT maker OpenAI is in early-stage discussions about a stock sale that would allow employees to cash out and could value the company at about $500 billion US. That would represent an eye-popping bump up from its current valuations of $300 billion, with the sale underscoring both OpenAI's rapid gains in users and revenue, as well as the intense competition among artificial intelligence firms to secure talented workers. The transaction would come before a potential IPO and would allow current and former employees to sell several $billion worth of shares. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,525 naira. In Botswana, it's at 13.39. In Kenya, 128 shilling 4, and Zambia, 22 kwacha.
So the library.
The BRICS countries in Brazil, the dollar there will cost you R5.50. In Russia, it's at 79 rubles 93. India, 87 rupees 81. China, 71 18. And in South Africa, the dollar will cost you 17 rand 93 cents. $1 is trading at 75 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Commodities markets now. Gold is trading at $3,378 and platinum $1,315 per ounce. Brent crude oil, Peter, at this point, it's at $68 to a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Tebisolo Hogo.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
The South African Broadcasting Corporation, SABC Sport, brings you Chasing the Sun. And this is a powerful 5-part documentary series about South Africa's national rugby team, the Springboks. It tells the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC2, you can tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache and the heroics that made rugby history. You can still stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere, and no subscription is required. So come on, don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC2 on your SABC Plus app. Be there when history shines.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge aka Binal Export depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week.
The global health community is this week marking World Breastfeeding Week to intensify awareness about the long-term health benefits of exclusive breastfeeding for both the mother and child. The week seeks to promote breastfeeding and create a conducive environment that supports mothers to breastfeed their babies, ultimately contributing to their well-being. As part of activities to commemorate the week, Channel Africa's Nhlanhla Mahlangu attended the launch of the Royal House of McDonald's Charities, second phase of the lactation center at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospital, that's in South Africa's historical township of Soweto. She filed this report.
Health experts say exclusive breastfeeding provides several benefits, including optimal nutrition for the baby's first 6 months of life, protection against infections and illnesses, and reduced risks of various conditions including obesity, asthma, and type 1 diabetes. They say lack of exclusive breastfeeding contributes to susceptibility to common infections, developmental issues, and chronic diseases. Royal McDonald's House of Charities Chief Executive Officer Matshepo Msibi says breastfeeding is one of the most effective ways to ensure a baby's health, development, and survival in the earliest stages of life.
It's very important for us to commemorate Breastfeeding Week, not only because breast is best for children, but breast milk and expressing milk is also important for the moms. Somebody said that the first drop that a child gets from the breast is like an antibiotic. So it's important from a nutritional perspective. It's the right temperature. It is the kind of food that has got the whole nutrition that the child needs in order for them to grow and to develop into healthy children.
While global exclusive breastfeeding rates have seen a slight increase in the previous years, South Africa is still lagging behind with a concerning decline in exclusive breastfeeding rates from 32% in 2016 to 22% in 2024. The current trend means the country is unlikely to achieve the World Health Assembly's breastfeeding target of at least 50% by the end of the year 2025 and 70% in 2030. Gauteng MEC for Health Nomantunko Morale-Hoko says the opening of the center is a major achievement.
I'm so excited about this center because it's an achievement for us, because it's something that it's there, but we're not talking about it to communities. Even yourself, you're not aware that when that child is not breastfed, what are the disadvantages of that child? And now we need to make sure that we balance the disadvantages. We reduce those disadvantages. We preach about people to make sure that they do breastfeed.
Karabo Mahlaba is a mother who recently lost her baby but continued to donate milk to the lactation center. She says breastfeeding plays a critical role in protecting child health and development.
Breast milk is the best. More than anything else, breast milk is the best. You can never go wrong with it. You can never doubt yourself. It also helps with healing your baby. Even as simple as having a blocked nose for your baby, it helps also unblock the nose. But with other mothers, it's almost like felt like, no, I just want to wear a crop top. We'll wear that after. Right now, let's deal with the babies. Let's have more time for the babies. So I'd actually be more thankful of the lactation center because of, if it wasn't for it, I don't think I would have been in the place that I'm in today, as hard as it was, because they were able, even if I'm crying, it's going to be okay.
The 2025 World Breastfeeding Week theme is Prioritize Breastfeeding, Create Sustainable Support Systems, which seeks to emphasize the importance of establishing long-term equitable support structures for breastfeeding mothers. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
About 10 minutes to get to the top of the hour. Let's take a look at this story now. South Africa's Labour Federation, the Congress of South African Trade Unions, or COSATU, is deeply concerned about the financial position of the Unemployment Insurance Fund, or the UIF, after it emerged that it granted one company millions in a bailout it did not qualify for. The UIF collects workers' contributions and pays them out when they go on maternity or lose their jobs. But it's been embroiled in controversy with allegations of corruption and maladministration. COSATU's Secretary General, Solly Phetoe, joins us now on the line to speak about this. Solly, thank you for joining us. How are you this Wednesday?
Thank you very much, and good morning to your listeners.
So, with the ongoing controversies regarding the UIF, you are concerned about this very important entity's financing. What is going on from your point of view?
Well, thank you very much once again. What is going on and what is a concern of COSATU is that the money of the workers is being used as cash for certain individual people who are not supposed to benefit from this entity. This entity is established for, as you said in your introduction, workers and employers, in particular private sectors, are contributing certain percentage to the UIF for them to be able to catch the money when they are retrenched, when they are dismissed, when women are subjected to the maternity leave. And now we see that this money is being used for some companies that does not qualify to be taken out from the stress. And these allegations or the shenanigans that is taking place in the UIF has been there, and that's why we had called for the former minister and the current minister that we need a full forensic investigation, not just an investigation. And we call that for those who are implicated in the money of workers must face the music. This money can only be used where workers are going to benefit. You will recall that we use billions to pay or to relieve or to substitute workers when they were not getting their salaries or when they were not being paid their full salaries during the COVID, during the layoff. We went to NETLEC, both ourselves as organized labor and business. We made a proposal that let's use the UIF to relieve workers, but also use the money to relieve temporarily for companies that are in stress. This mine that we're talking about, Sianda Bakata, in our own analysis and the report we have, it has never been under stress. It has never been under distress. It's a company that it's a mine that has declared dividend. It's a mine that has made a lot of profit. We're very surprised to hear that they've been subjected. They've been given so many millions at the expense of workers. And for your information, or for the public information, this mine gave Section 189 to workers either late last year or early this year. We're asking ourselves, what is this? What is this? Is it how officials of the Department of Employment of Labor are continually squandering the money of the workers? That's why we're calling for the minister and the president of the Republic of South Africa to put up a forensic investigation, but also put the UIF temporarily under administration, because we know that if we continuously put the UIF under administration, it is going to, at some stage in the long run, is going to have an implication or an impact to workers when they are claim workers. We have established a call center, our call center workers who are working in the call center every day, every hour, every week, they receive complaints about the non-accessible of their claim at the UIF.
So as you talk about the latest issue that you have been raising alarm bells about, the Sianda Bakatla Platinum Mine, or SPM, that was given a bailout of 807 million rand. You touched on the investigation that was ordered and the outcome or some outcomes from that investigation. But while awaiting the outcome of that investigation, if we can backtrack, the company was paid a further 61 million rand in May, and this payment was attributed to some of the workers having been retrenched. Was that a credible attribution, reasoning, as far as you see things as COSATU?
No, we don't think so. We don't think so. And for your information, that was ordered by the Minister of Employment to do the investigation through the SI. That has never happened. We have demanded that report. There's no report. It has never happened. And that's the reason why there's a continuously so-called bailout which is uncalled for. And that's why we say there must be an investigation, a forensic investigation, because we've got companies. Let me give you an example. We've got post office. We have argued until we put pressure to the Minister of Employment of Labor, because the former minister rejected that and the CCMA rejected that to bail out post office. It's only this year with the current minister she was able to push that the money the CCM has approved the bailout. But this company have never been subjected to these workers of the post office. And this company, as I said, it has made a profit. It was announced that they declared dividend. Dividend meaning that they are making a lot of profit. So why were they bailed out? And that's why we're saying we don't want to mention names in this public. But we are saying we suspect that there are certain individual politicians who are benefiting from this thing. That's why we want a forensic investigation. And that we're going to push, because this is the money of the workers.
And also, as the Federation, what you are pushing for, and just briefly in 30 seconds, Brasol, is that you are adamant that the UIF's latest actuarial report must be tabled at NEDLAC. Why would this be important?
It must be tabled at NEDLAC because, as I said, the constituency that is contributing to UIF is employees and organized business. So it is our responsibility to make sure that this money of the workers is used properly. We want to know what is happening. And at some stage, the business booster supported COSATU to put this UIF entity under administration, because they were also getting information about the corruption that is taking place, criminal activities that are taking place. And we really want to call for the President and the Minister to take us serious on this matter.
Thank you so much for your time again, Solly. We appreciate it on Channel Africa.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to our listeners and our viewers.
That was the Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU's Secretary General, Solly Phetoe. That's in South Africa. So that's where we end that chat. And coming up after Rise and Shine is On the Move with Benjamin Mushatama and Palesa Tao. And they both here to tell us today what to expect. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
How are you?
How are you doing?
Good.
All right, from 9 a.m. Central Africa time on The Move. In the first hour, we're celebrating Women's Month, and I think we're going to be starting a series of Women's Month conversation. Starting with this one, with women in male-dominated industry. And we know that women are slowly, obviously, making their way into these industries, but it seems like one with the slowest growth remains to be the tech industry. We'll be taking a look at women in tech in the first hour of the show, and we'll be chatting to a woman in tech who's going to help us unpack what it's like to break barriers over there.
All right, that sounds very exciting.
Yeah,
it's Women's Month.
So that's why you mute.
I'm just here for support.
We're also going to be chatting about losing a life partner, which can be, quite daunting. And obviously, especially in African families, married or unmarried, I think unmarried is even worse. If you decided to have a life partner versus a husband or a wife, you might find that there's a lot of pressure, but also a lot of emotional grief from losing someone that's quite dear to your heart.
Yeah, don't forget the loneliness as well. If you've lived a long time with someone and then you have to kind of navigate your life on your own. Sometimes we become very dependent on our loved ones, don't we? And when we find ourselves without them, how do you make the transition to live without them? Must be difficult.
All right, that's On the Move coming up after the 9 o'clock news. And that's how we come to the end of today's episode of Rise and Shine. Let's do it again tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 Central African time. I'm Peter Ndoro.
And I'm Asanda Beda. Goodbye, everybody. Stay with Channel Africa.
The news is next with Joalane Tulongwepe.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. SABC News. the African perspective.
Top stories: Asawa, South Africa concerned about Eswatini-US immigrant agreement and report back on allegations of bullying at Sintebali charity. Good morning. I'm Cholani Tulongwepe. South Africa has raised concerns with Eswatini over the arrival of a group of high-risk criminals deported from the United States. The individuals are from various countries and some have been convicted of serious crimes.